For centuries, Earth's most powerful being lived for only one thing: battle. No enemy could excite him anymore. No fight felt worth it. Slowly, his obsession turned him insane. To feel that thrill again, he takes over the body of a normal high school student and returns to a world he once ruled with his fists. But while chaos begins to rise, another presence awakens. Earth's true guardian, sealed away by the gods themselves, reborn in a new body. This time, he won't just protect the world. He plans to challenge the gods. With a new body, unstoppable power, and an endless hunger for battle, will he defeat the gods? Or will this world break first? 3 million years ago, when the first humans appeared on Earth, our main character, Mu, was right there with them. At first glance, he looked like any other caveman, but he had a secret: he was obsessed with the hunt. Soon, he realized something terrifying. While everyone around him grew old, weak, and died, Mu stayed exactly the same. Disease, accidents, predators, nothing could touch him. He was literally a glitch in the matrix of life. As generations passed, Mu evolved. He became bigger, more muscular, and more powerful. For 3 million years, his life was nothing but fighting and hunting. Eventually, he reached a level where no one could match him. People started calling him the god of Earth. He got so strong that he defeated every other deity and took the title of the most powerful in the divine realm. But that's when the real nightmare started: total boredom. Frustrated, Mu stomped his foot one day, and the entire divine realm shook like a mini-planet in an earthquake. Angels and demons were terrified, but for Mu, this was just another Tuesday. Even Lucifer, the second strongest god, was tired of Mu's tantrums. Mu sighed, thinking, being this strong is a total scam. Then he had a genius idea. If his power was the problem, he just needed to become weak again. If he lived in a fragile human body, he'd have thousands of rivals to fight. He jumped up and summoned his assistant, a massive dragon named Leem. Mu told him, "Take care of things while I'm gone," and started walking away. Leem tried to stop him with a binding spell, but Mu just gave him a "don't even try it" look that made the dragon instantly regret his life choices. Leem played the victim card, crying about the upcoming god meeting, but Mu didn't care about politics. He offered the dragon a choice: let me go or fight me right now. Obviously, Leem chose life and wished him a safe journey. Mu looked at a floating mini version of Earth and started listening to human prayers. Most were boring, but one message stood out: a human questioning the very existence of gods. Mu grinned. This was his guy. He decided to swap souls with this human, leaving his indestructible body behind in the divine realm. Leem warned him, if your body gets hurt here, your soul dies on Earth. But Mu's ego was too big. He figured no one would dare touch his physical form. In an instant, the scene shifts. We see a 17-year-old loser named Lee Ho. He just finished a video game and felt depressed because his real life sucked compared to the heroes in his games. He was standing on the edge of a 3-story building, ready to end it all. He dropped his phone, watched it shatter, and jumped. As he fell, he screamed, "If there's a god, send me to another world!" He hit the pavement. Blood everywhere. By all logic, he was dead. But then, his hand twitched. Mu's soul had hijacked the body a split second before impact. Now, the great god Mu was stuck in a broken, bleeding human body, feeling the most intense pain he'd felt in millions of years. Meanwhile, back in the divine realm, Lee Ho's soul opened its eyes. He wasn't dead. He was standing in front of a giant, very confused, and very angry dragon. Both of them were stunned. 10 seconds ago, Mu was a confident god, and Lee was a suicidal teen. Now, destiny has pulled the ultimate switcheroo. As Mu's soul slammed into Lee Ho's falling body, he realized he was in a literal do-or-die situation. No tutorial, no warning, just gravity pulling him down at terminal velocity. Crack! The impact was brutal. Lee's body hit the pavement like a rag doll, bones shattering into a million pieces. For a god who had lived 30 million years, this pain was a brand new, terrifyingly intense experience. As he lay there in a pool of blood, the world went cold. Mu realized his heart had stopped. Most people would call this game over, but Mu wasn't most people. Having spent eons mastering his original form, his consciousness was so precise he could manually override human biology. With a sheer act of will, he forced his heart to pump, stitched his blood vessels back together, and stopped the internal bleeding. He stood up drenched in blood but wearing a creepy, satisfied smile. This pain? This was exactly what he came for. Mu began digging through Lee's memories to understand his new life. He found the base, a tiny basement-style apartment where the only welcome committee was a cat that had pooped near the window. Talk about a warm reception. Lee Ho was a total loner, a pathetic loser whose only relative lived miles away. But the most interesting memory? A school bully who had made Lee's life a living hell. Mu wasn't annoyed. He was thrilled. He had found his first target. The next morning, the police found the bloodstained glasses at the crash site, but Mu was already at school. He stumbled through the hallways, his broken body protesting every move. He found the classroom and slammed the door open with so much excitement that it bounced back and hit him right in the face. Way to ruin a cool entry, right? One of the students, the alpha bully from Lee's memories, looked up and scoffed, "Hey, idiot Lee Ho, watch where you're going!" Mu didn't say a word. He just walked up and stood inches from the guy's face, sporting a smile that looked more like a predator's snarl. The bully, confused by the sudden change in the nerd, didn't hesitate. He threw a solid punch right into Mu's face. Blood sprayed across the floor. Mu didn't move. He had a rule. A fight only starts when the other person shows their intent to kill. Now that the first punch was landed, Mu's smile widened. He fired back a punch with the same intensity, but his weak human arm screamed in pain, a brutal reminder that he was no longer a god. The teacher started screaming for them to stop, but the classroom was already in chaos. The bully, his ego bruised, charged at Mu. Mu tried to activate his god powers to end it quickly, but nothing happened. He was powerless. In the distraction, he took another hit to the face. Realizing his body was too weak for a fair trade, Mu decided to get creative. He used the only reliable part of Lee's body, his skull. He timed his move perfectly, letting the bully's punch land directly on the top of his head. Crack! The bully's fingers shattered against Mu's skull. As the bully screamed in agony, Mu didn't let up. He grabbed the guy and delivered 2 massive headbutts, one to the gut and a final bone-crunching one to the jaw. The bully's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to his knees, completely unconscious. The class was dead silent, phones out, recording the impossible. The school's biggest loser had just taken down the king of the bullies. But Mu wasn't done. The adrenaline was fading, and the metallic taste of blood filled his mouth. He looked down at the defeated boy, leaning in close as if to say something respectful. "Thanks," Mu whispered. And then, in a move that shocked everyone in the room, Mu opened his mouth wide and bit down, tearing a chunk of the bully's ear clean off. Mu didn't just bite off the bully's ear, he spat it out on the floor right in front of the entire class. The room turned into a graveyard, total silence, followed by pure, unadulterated terror. To them, Lee Ho wasn't just a nerd anymore. He was a full-blown psycho. But Mu didn't care about their opinions. He just wiped the blood off his face and stared at the unconscious bully like a predator eyeing a trophy. See, in Mu's twisted mind, this wasn't about humiliation. It was about respect. He marked the bully like a hunter tags a prize animal. It was a badge of honor. By the time the ambulance arrived, the entire school was buzzing. The weakest kid in the second year had sent the king of bullies to the emergency room. As the ambulance drove away, Mu waved goodbye, genuinely hoping the guy would survive just so they could fight again. He was summoned to the office immediately. The teacher was vibrating with rage, ready to smack Mu with a heavy file. But when he saw the look in Mu's eyes, that cold, excited glint of a warrior looking for his next victim, the teacher froze. He realized that if he swung that file, he'd be the next one in the ambulance. Panicked, he just yelled, "Bring your parents tomorrow," and kicked Mu out of school early. Mu headed back to the basement, his mind wandering. He tried to tap into mana, the divine energy known as chi or chakra in other worlds, but his human body was a dead end. Every time he tried to channel it, the energy vanished. He realized then that in this world, he couldn't rely on magic. He was stuck with raw, physical human strength. Exhausted, Mu decided to check on the divine realm. He projected his soul back into his original god body, only to witness a hilarious scene. Lee Ho, the original soul, was trying to choke out Mu's dragon assistant, Leem. Lee was acting like he owned the place, demanding the dragon as his pet. Mu wasn't amused. He summoned a massive godly hand and crushed Lee Ho into the ground, reminding him who the real boss was. He decided to give the kid a second chance, but not here. He dragged Lee Ho's soul to the domain of Lucifer, the second most powerful god in the realm. Mu marched into Lucifer's castle like he owned the joint. Lucifer, who was busy managing his own planet Elmar, was furious. But Mu didn't ask for permission. He pointed at the planet Elmar and told Lucifer, "Open the gate. I'm dropping this kid there." Lucifer tried to act tough, reminding Mu about the rules of godly domains. Mu just leaned in and whispered, "Do you want to prove your power against mine? Because I'm ready." Lucifer, knowing he'd be turned into a stain on the floor, started trembling in frustration. Mu didn't wait. He reached out to touch the surface of Elmar. An unbreakable divine barrier flared up to stop him. Mu just smirked and shattered it with his bare hands like it was cheap glass. He looked at the terrified Lee Ho and told him to jump into the hole he just punched in the atmosphere. Lee Ho, ever the loser, begged for the dragon again. Mu just laughed, kicked him into the planet, and told Lucifer, "Watch the kid for me." As Mu left, Lucifer was burning with 1,000 years of hatred. He remembered a time when he was the baddest thing in the universe. Lucifer was the original demon lord who had killed his own creator and conquered every god in existence. He was the absolute invincible legend until Mu showed up and crushed him like a bug in front of everyone. Lucifer was burning with rage. He took a dark vow. "I will get my revenge on that human-born Mu no matter what." Meanwhile, back in the present, Mu was casually riding on his dragon assistant, heading toward his domain. He had no idea that something was watching him from the clouds, a demon spy sent by Lucifer to track his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But Lucifer wasn't the only one thirsty for blood. Back at school, the bully who got his ear bitten off finally woke up in a hospital bed. He was shaking with anger and decided it was time to bring in the big guns. He scrolled through his phone until he found the name, Chiyul, a youth division middleweight boxing champion. Chiyul was in the middle of an intense training session, sweat dripping off his body, when his phone rang. His friend, a blonde guy, answered for him. It was the bully on the other end, sounding desperate. He made a deal. "I'll buy you a brand new phone if you just handle a small problem for me." Chiyul didn't think twice. A free phone for beating up a nerd? Deal. The next day, the bully walked into class acting like nothing had happened. The room went dead silent. Then, the whispers started. "Look at him. He looks pathetic now. And I heard he got neutralized." The bully snapped. He slammed his bag down and screamed that he could still take anyone on. The class president, a girl with glasses, stood up and told him to shut up or get out. The bully was livid. A girl was talking back to him? He grabbed a chair, ready to throw it at her, but the door swung open. A massive teacher walked in, and the bully immediately sat down like a good little boy. The teacher noticed the tension and asked the president what was wrong, but she kept quiet. After school, the teacher asked the class president for a favor. Since she was trustworthy, he wanted her to check on Lee Ho, Mu, who hadn't been answering his phone. In exchange, he promised her a recommendation letter for her senior year. She couldn't say no. She arrived at Lee's basement and knocked. No answer. She tried the knob, it was unlocked. When she stepped inside, she froze. The place was a mess, bugs everywhere, and Lee was lying on the floor looking completely lifeless. His eyes were rolled back and his mouth was wide open. Terrified, she called an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctors realized Lee was just suffering from extreme starvation. While Moo's soul was away in the divine realm, nobody was feeding the body. They hooked him up to a nutrient IV to stabilize him. Suddenly, the body twitched. Moo's soul had returned. Moo woke up completely confused. He saw a tube in his arm and had no idea what this human technology was. But as a god, he could feel the nutrients flowing into his veins, repairing his body at lightning speed. To him, it felt like some kind of high-level healing magic. The class president saw his creepy smile and figured he was insane. "Do you remember what happened?" she asked. Without waiting for an answer, she grabbed her bag. "I'm going back to report to the teacher." Moo sat up and stopped her. He didn't know who she was, but he assumed she was the one who saved him. In typical Moo style, instead of saying thank you, he asked, "Where can I go to get stronger?" She gave him a weird look. He didn't look like an athlete at all, but she pointed him toward a nearby park with an outdoor gym. Moo wasted no time. He headed to the park and started doing pull-ups, pushing his weak body to its limit. He was actually impressed by the simple human gym equipment. To an ancient Earth god, these machines looked like revolutionary training gear. In the middle of his workout, something hit him in the back, a small stone. He turned around and saw the bully he had wrecked. But this time, he wasn't alone. He brought Chiul, the professional boxer. The bully started barking like a scared dog, hiding behind his cousin. "You're gonna pay for my ear. Chiul is going to kill you." Moo didn't even blink. He picked up the stone and asked, "Who threw this?" The bully, feeling brave with a champion by his side, yelled, "I did!" Before he could finish his next sentence, Moo lunged forward and delivered a lightning-fast punch. Crack! The bully's nose, which had just started healing, was shattered again. While this was happening on Earth, things were getting intense in the Divine Realm. Back in the Divine Realm, the God meeting was a total mess. Moo's little dragon assistant, Liam, was shaking as he tried to read a message from his master, but before he could even finish a sentence, Lucifer snapped. "How does a mere assistant dare to speak first in the presence of gods?" he roared. Poor Liam scrambled to explain that he was just a messenger, not trying to be disrespectful. The letter was classic Moo, just asking the other gods to send him a worthy opponent if they found one. This was the final straw for Lucifer. He slammed his hand on the table, making the whole realm tremble. "Moo thinks everything is a game," he shouted. The other gods, like the archer god, started to agree. They argued that Moo's help usually just made things worse. To prove his point, Lucifer brought up the Cyclops planet incident from 1,000 years ago. A massive void creature, big enough to swallow a planet, was attacking. Moo showed up, smiling like a maniac, and sliced the creature in half in 1 second. But Lucifer argued that Moo's solo act caused more destruction than the monster would have. He declared that a guy who doesn't take the world seriously doesn't deserve to be a god. Liam could only watch in terror, praying for Moo to come back before things got even worse. Back on Earth, the bully was still barking. "My cousin Chiul is a pro boxer. He's gonna kill you." Chiul, the middleweight champ, was actually impressed by Moo's speed. He asked if Moo did martial arts. Moo just shrugged. "I don't play sports. I just like fighting." Chiul laughed, thinking Moo was just an arrogant kid, spit out his gum, and took a boxing stance. Chiul moved first. He landed a lightning-fast punch right on Moo's face. But something was wrong. Moo didn't even try to dodge. As an experienced fighter, Chiul knew that wasn't normal. He didn't realize that for a god like Moo, taking the first hit is the start signal. With a creepy grin, Moo asked, "Is hand-to-hand combat your favorite thing too?" Moo instantly copied Chiul's stance and lunged. Chiul tried to block it, but the raw power sent him sliding back, his arm stinging from the impact. Moo was thrilled, but he knew Lee Ho's body was breaking under the pressure. His muscles were literally screaming for him to stop. To keep his fragile arms from snapping, Moo took off his belt and wrapped it tightly around his fist. The bully on the sidelines yelled that it was unfair, but Moo and Chiul ignored him. Chiul went all in, throwing a non-stop barrage of lefts and rights. Moo blocked most of them, analyzing Chiul's style. The boxer was fast, but predictable. In a split second, Moo saw an opening. Instead of just blocking, he punched Chiul's arm mid-swing. Snap! Chiul's arm broke, and he screamed in pain. Moo just watched him, looking amused. He delivered one final punch, knocking the pro boxer out cold. Now it was just Moo, and the bully who started the whole thing. The bully realized he was doomed. Moo didn't show any mercy. He used his new copied boxing techniques to turn the bully into a punching bag, ending it with a brutal knee to the gut. Feeling satisfied, Moo went back to his basement. He sat on the bed, ready to swap his soul back to the divine realm to check on his dragon and grab some supplies. He closed his eyes and tried to trigger the transfer, but nothing happened. He opened his eyes and he was still in the basement. He tried again. Still nothing. Moo was stuck. He didn't know that back in the divine realm, Lucifer had finally reached his limit. The disrespect of Moo forcing a soul onto Lucifer's planet without permission had triggered a dark plan. While Moo was busy playing human in the park, the gates between worlds were being tampered with. While returning to his domain, Moo was chatting with his dragon assistant, Liam. He was hyping up his trip to Earth, even though he admitted his new human body felt weak as hell. Moo ordered Liam to find a recovery magic orb to speed up his healing. Now, on planets like Elmar, magic items are common, but on Earth, they're super rare. Only humans blessed by gods can use them, and they become legends. Leem promised to have the orb ready for Mu's next visit. Before Mu left, Leem reminded him about the big god meeting. Mu just reached into his pocket and handed over a small letter. The one we already knew was just a "find me a fight" request. Ignoring Leem's pleas to stay and be responsible, Mu touched the miniature Earth model and sent his soul back to Li Ho's body. He had no clue a demon spy was watching his every move, reporting directly to his greatest enemy. Back in the divine realm, Lucifer was done playing games. He realized Mu's original body was currently an empty shell. This was the 1,000-year opportunity he'd been waiting for. Without warning, Lucifer launched purple lightning spears at the dragon, Leem. Leem dodged just in time, his shy attitude vanishing as he shifted into battle mode. "Are you declaring war on the god of Earth?" Leem roared. Lucifer just smirked. "I'm removing Mu from his seat!" Leem fired a deadly laser breath at Lucifer, but the devil dodged it easily. The blast hit the other side of the realm, forcing the archer god to create a magical shield to protect everyone. Lucifer didn't even flinch. Leem then activated his ultimate move, Polymorphic Release, turning into a massive red lightning-covered beast. But Lucifer just mocked him, saying he'd deal with the little dragon first before hunting Mu. The fight didn't last long. Mu's loyal assistant was brutally defeated and trapped in Lucifer's life taxidermy spell. The archer god, seeing the chaos, decided the meeting was over and walked away, claiming he was neutral. Lucifer then turned to the other gods and asked, "Does anyone else object to Mu being expelled?" Looking at the bloody dragon, nobody dared to speak. Leem, barely alive, warned Lucifer that he couldn't face Mu, but Lucifer dropped a chilling secret. He knew Mu was currently trapped in a pathetic, weak human body. He had spied on them and seen everything. To make sure Mu couldn't be found, Lucifer used a magical weapon to slice off the dragon's tail. He kept Leem alive only so he could use him to trace Mu's exact location on Earth. Lucifer's demonic laughter filled the air as he planned to give Mu the same humiliation he had suffered. Meanwhile, back on Earth, things were messy. The boxer Chiyul got chewed out by his coach for getting into a street fight. As Chiyul left the gym, he bumped into Kangchul, one of the best boxers in the country. Embarrassed to admit he got beaten by a nerd, Chiyul started fake crying. He lied and said he was just trying to save his brother from bullies and got jumped. At first, Kangchul seemed cold and told him it was his own fault for being careless. Chiyul thought his plan failed, but just as he turned to leave, Kangchul stopped him. He had fallen for the lie. "Who did this to you?" he asked, his voice cold. On the other side of the city, Mu was sitting on his dirty bed, getting more frustrated by the second. He still couldn't switch back to his god body. Based on his divine knowledge, he came to one terrifying conclusion. His original body in the divine realm must be seriously damaged. Mu was now convinced that the other gods had teamed up to prank him, and he was furious. He couldn't stand the thought of those cowardly deities taking advantage of his situation when they never dared to face him one-on-one. He jumped off his bed in a panic, swearing that if he ever got back to his original body, he'd turn every single one of them into stew. But for now, he had to focus on making this weak human body survival ready. He went back to the park and started training like a complete maniac. Every time his muscles screamed in pain, he just laughed harder. To the people passing by, he looked like a total psycho. But to Mu, the pain was the only thing making this trip fun. Suddenly, the class president showed up. She was annoyed because he had been skipping school. Mu's excuse? "School is a waste of time. I can't train my muscles there." The girl gave him some surprisingly good advice. She asked, "What's the point of training if you have no one to fight?" She told him to come back to school, start some conflicts, and find new opponents. Mu was impressed by her logic. He realized he had already broken the local bullies, so he needed a bigger playground to find a real challenge. Just as he was thinking about it, a masked figure appeared behind him. It was Kangchul, and he wasn't your average thug. Kangchul had a dark history. His sister was a promising ballerina until a stalker ruined her life and her dreams. When the law failed to punish the man, Kangchul took justice into his own hands and became an anti-bully vigilante. Because of the lies the boxer Chiyul told him, Kangchul thought Mu was a dangerous criminal who needed to be stopped. Kangchul didn't waste words. He threw a punch that landed right on Mu's back. Most people would have been knocked out instantly, but Mu just stood there, analyzing the strength. He realized this wasn't just another street brawler. Mu turned around with a smug grin and told him, "Stop wasting time with small talk and show me what you got." That was all the provocation Kangchul needed. He lunged forward, throwing a barrage of professional boxing combinations. Mu was shocked for the first time. He was facing someone with real speed and accuracy. He dodged and blocked as much as he could, but the pressure was intense. Kangchul's experience was on another level compared to the school bullies. Mu was being pushed back, his weak human lungs gasping for air. Every punch from the national-level boxer felt like a hammer blow. He was cornered, with no room left to move. Kangchul saw his opening, tightened his fist, and prepared for a finishing blow that would put an end to the psycho nerd once and for all. Kangchul didn't hold back. He landed a bone-crushing punch right into Mu's side. It felt like being kicked by a mule over and over again. Kang stepped back, letting the sharp pain sink in, and said coldly, "I'm targeting your injuries on purpose. Mercy is for the worthy, and you aren't it." But instead of begging, Mu started laughing through the agony. His twisted reaction made Kangchul even more furious. He decided to get ruthless. Mu realized the gap between them was huge. He couldn't win with raw power in this weak body. But for a god who lives for the thrill of the hunt, giving up wasn't an option. He shifted gears. He closed his eyes, shut down his emotions, and started analyzing Kangchul's movements with thousands of years of battle experience. He remembered a fight from 1,000,000 years ago where he was almost overpowered. Back then, he won by staying calm and finding the smallest opening. He decided to repeat that strategy. Stop feeling. Start thinking. Mu improvised a blank expression that looked so ugly and weird it only made Kang Chul more irritated. Kang Chul charged, raining down punches. Mu retreated until his back hit a tree. That's when he played dirty. He kicked up a cloud of dust and dirt into Kang Chul's face. Kang Chul blocked it easily with his glasses, but he didn't realize the trap. The dirt wasn't meant for his eyes. It was meant for his feet. Mu had scattered small stones and loose soil all over the ground to ruin the boxer's footing. Mu teased him. "What's wrong? Scared to move?" Kang Chul snapped and lunged for a blind spot strike. Mu dodged, but the punch grazed his chin. He didn't care because his plan was working. Kang Chul was getting aggressive and predictable. Suddenly, Kang Chul's foot slipped on a loose stone. His balance broke. Pow! Mu saw the opening and lunged. His arm was too damaged to punch, so he slammed his elbow into Kang Chul's face instead. The impact shattered the vigilante's glasses and left him stunned. Mu started mocking him, laughing at his broken face. But Mu got too cocky. He was so busy insulting Kang Chul that he didn't see the counterattack coming. Kang Chul swung his weapon and crushed Mu's leg. The pain was unbearable. Mu fell to his knees, unable to move or dodge. Kang Chul stood over him, weapon on his shoulder. "Not laughing now, are you?" He raised his fist to crush Mu's jaw so he'd never smile again. Mu closed his eyes, preparing for his first defeat in 4,000 years. Clang! Just as the punch was about to land, a stone flew out of nowhere and hit Kang Chul right in the face. The impact threw him off balance. A weak voice called out, "Master!" Kang Chul, who never wanted his face to be seen, panicked. He pulled up his hood and vanished into the shadows before anyone could spot him. As he fled, a small, lizard-like creature with horns crawled out of the bushes. Mu looked at the tiny thing and realized it was his assistant, the majestic dragon Leem, now reduced to a pathetic lizard. They scrambled back to Li Ho's basement. There, Leem dropped the bombshell. Lucifer had won. Mu's original god body was trapped in an unbreakable barrier that separated time and space. Mu was officially locked out of his own body. Even worse, Lucifer had dragged Mu's physical form into his own dark domain to keep it as a trophy. Lucifer was gloating. With Mu trapped in a weak human body, he felt like the new king of the universe. But there was a catch. Lucifer couldn't just descend to Earth and kill Mu directly. He needed to know the secret gateway. He brought the defeated dragon assistant Leem to his domain and offered him a deal. "Betray Mu, show me the way to Earth, and I'll make you its new god." Lucifer thought greed would win, but Leem just stared at the barrier trapping Mu's body. "Is this barrier truly invincible against all attacks?" Leem whispered. Lucifer laughed. "Nothing can break it. Now join me." But suddenly, the castle began to glow with a blinding golden light. Leem wasn't surrendering. He was charging up. "Massive self-explosion!" he roared. Boom! The explosion was nuclear. It ripped the roof off Lucifer's castle and vaporized an entire sector of the divine realm. Leem used 99% of his total life force to cause that blast, reverting him into a tiny charred lizard. Knowing he was dead if he stayed, Leem used his last bit of energy to leap toward the miniature Earth gateway. Lucifer, burning with rage, threw a magical spear to pin him down, but he missed. The tiny lizard vanished from the divine realm and plummeted toward Earth. Luck was on his side. He didn't just land anywhere. He was the object that hit Kang Chul in the face, saving Mu's life at the last second. Back in the basement, Mu listened to the story and went from furious to pumped. Knowing Lucifer had hijacked his body made his blood boil, but it also gave him a new goal, get strong enough to reclaim his throne. However, Li Ho's body was still a wreck. Even a light punch felt like his bones were snapping. "Did you bring the orb?" Mu asked desperately. The tiny lizard nodded. He didn't have pockets, so he had literally swallowed a dragon bloodstone to hide it from Lucifer. He coughed up the glowing red gem. It was infused with a one-time healing spell and a hidden body enhancement boost. Mu didn't even wait for the saliva to dry. He activated it instantly. A green aura exploded around him, stitching his muscles back together and making them denser and faster than before. He felt 100 times stronger. Since Li's body was so weak, the orb wasn't fully used up. Mu gave the leftover fragment back to the lizard for an emergency, and the little guy tucked it back into his stomach. The scene shifts. We see the class president at home with her own pet lizard. She treats it like her best friend, wishing it could talk. She heads to school, leaving her pet behind. At school, everything had changed. The original bully Mu had wrecked was now a totally different person. He wore glasses, sat quietly, and spent every second studying for exams. The pain Mu gave him had literally beaten the evil out of him. He was on a path to redemption, until Mu kicked the door open. Mu walked straight to the bully's desk. "Ready for another round?" he asked, with a terrifying grin. Before the bully could faint, the class president stepped in, surprised to see Mu actually showed up. Mu, with the tiny dragon hidden under his shirt, admitted he only came because she convinced him and because he wanted to find someone to beat to death. The girl just sighed and wished him luck. But downstairs, the real trouble was brewing. Kang Chul was talking to a girl in his class. She started gossiping about the school's biggest legend, how a nerd snapped, hospitalized a bully, and bit his ear off. She even mentioned the bully's new nickname, the neutered one. As she described the psycho nerd, Kang Chul's eyes widened. The pieces finally clicked. The guy he had fought in the park wasn't a criminal gang leader. He was the kid from these stories. Kang Chul realized he had been played by Chiul, and now the anti-bully vigilante was staring at a very complicated situation. Kang Chul realized he had been played by Chiul's fake tears, but he decided to let it go for now. Little did he know, Mu was already on his trail. Mu was having a terrible, boring day, no fights, just students staring at phones. But then, he spotted a familiar frame in the distance. Even with a mask and glasses, Mu recognized those muscles instantly. "It's the guy from yesterday!" Mu screamed, charging like a lunatic. Kang Chul didn't wait around. He bolted, leaving his shocked friend behind. He couldn't understand how this nerd had recognized him through his disguise. Desperate to avoid a scene or a police report, Kang Chul dived into a narrow alley and vanished. Mu reached the alley seconds later, but the vigilante was gone. Suddenly, the tiny lizard Lim crawled out of Mu's shirt. "Was that the one who challenged you, master?" Lim asked. He offered to track Kang Chul down using his dragon sense of smell. Mu gave the green light, and the puppy lizard started sniffing the ground. But before he could find the scent, a pair of giant shoes blocked his path. It was the class president, Kim Yoo-jin. She was staring at Lim with wide eyes, but it wasn't fear, it was pure, obsessive love. Unlike most people, Kim Yoo-jin was a lizard fanatic. Before Lim could tell her to move, she scooped him up like a plush toy. Lim was horrified. "Unban me, human! I'm a demigod!" he shrieked. But to her, he was just the most adorable thing she'd ever seen, way cuter than her own pet at home. Lim scrambled back to Mu, hiding behind his leg. "Master, this human is a nuisance." Kim Yoo-jin stepped forward, her eyes locked on the lizard. "Is this your friend?" she asked. Mu looked at his shaking assistant and smirked. "He's my obedient assistant." Mu noticed the jealousy and love in Kim Yoo-jin's eyes and hatched a plan. "I'll let you borrow him for a bit," Mu offered. "But in exchange, I need information." Kim Yoo-jin didn't even care what the info was. She just wanted the lizard. Mu grabbed Lim by the neck and tossed him into the air. Lim spun through the sky and landed right on Kim's head. "Stay with her. Come back later," Mu commanded as he walked away, leaving his assistant behind. At Kim's house, things got awkward. Lim, ever the professional, tried to act tough. "By my master's orders, you will cooperate with me," he declared. Kim was mesmerized by the talking lizard and shook his tiny hand. When she confirmed Mu, Lee Ho was the master. She admitted that in school, Lee Ho was actually the lowest of the low at the bottom of every rank. Lim nearly exploded. "My master is the most powerful being in the universe, stronger than any god!" he screamed. Kim thought his imagination was sweet and agreed to help him gather info on one condition. He had to visit her often. Lim agreed, thinking he was the one using her. Meanwhile, the lowest-ranked student was out there looking for a fight that could shake the world. Mu's dedication to his training was paying off. He was no longer struggling with basic movements. He was moving with effortless godlike power. To test his new strength, he punched a nearby iron rod, not a scratch on his hand, and no pain. He was visibly satisfied, but his smile faded when he realized he still hadn't found Kang Chul. He decided to head home, unaware that his sweat was so pungent it was acting like a beacon for his assistant. Across town, the tiny lizard Lim was busy gathering data on Earth using Kim Yoo-jin's computer. Suddenly, his sharp nose picked up Mu's scent. He thanked the girl for the peace and bolted, leaping across rooftops like a green blur until he landed perfectly on Mu's shoulder. Lim proudly reported that he had secured a royal assistant, Kim Yoo-jin, who was now loyal to Mu. As they walked, Lim's nose twitched again. He caught a familiar scent, Kang Chul. In a nearby alley, the vigilante was busy beating down a thief who had stolen a bicycle. The thief tried to threaten Kang Chul, which only earned him a harder beating. Mu watched from the shadows, thrilled to find his target again. Kang Chul felt the danger and spun around. He was shocked to see the psycho nerd standing there again. Tension filled the air. Lim was tugging at Mu's ear, insisting they go a different way, but Mu ignored him. He stepped toward Kang Chul with cold determination. Kang Chul tried to de-escalate. "This is a misunderstanding, don't attack." But Mu didn't care about words. He wanted to fight. Mu lunged forward, and Kang Chul took a defensive stance. He knew Mu wasn't the same weakling he had fought before, but then everything went still. Mu was playing a psychological game, waiting for Kang Chul to make the first move so the fight would be official. The standoff was broken by the thief. Seeing Kang Chul distracted by Mu, the thief grabbed Kang Chul's weapon and swung it with murderous intent. Kang Chul dodged with expert precision, but realized the weapon was now heading straight for Mu's head. He actually felt a flash of concern for the kid. Crack! The weapon slammed into Mu's skull. It was a blow that should have killed a normal human, but Mu didn't even flinch. He just had a tiny scratch. To Mu, this was the start signal he needed. Without wasting a second, Mu delivered a devastating kick to the thief's stomach, sending the weapon flying into the air. Mu caught the weapon mid-spin and used it to hook the thief's neck, pulling him in close. Bam! Mu delivered a brutal headbutt that shattered the thief's nose, but Mu wasn't done. He used the thief as a human punching bag, testing his newly enhanced muscles. He rained down punches from every angle, occasionally using the captured weapon to make the impact even more painful. The thief was screaming, begging for mercy, until he finally collapsed into a bloody heap on the ground. Mu stood over the weeping thief, looking like a proud teacher who had just finished a lesson. But the satisfaction didn't last. He realized one-sided fights are boring. There was no thrill, no risk. He suddenly remembered why he was there. Kang Chul. He turned around to face his real opponent, only to find the alley empty. Kang Chul had used the distraction to vanish again. As Kang Chul sprinted away, he was haunted by one question. How does this kid keep finding me? He had no idea he was being tracked by a god. He was so focused on escaping that he didn't notice the tiny lizard Lim in his path. Crack! Kang Chul accidentally kicked the poor assistant like a football, sending him flying into the darkness. Kang didn't even look back. He just wanted to get home. At his house, Kang Chul threw his shoes off, his mind still stuck on Mu's creepy, pumped-up face. Suddenly, his sister, Hina, walked in. At 26, Hina was a high-powered prosecutor. After the trauma of her stalker incident, she dedicated her life to putting criminals behind bars. While Kang Chul chose the path of a shadow vigilante, Hina chose the law. She teased him. How dare you block the path of a great prosecutor? But then asked him to make her some ramen. Looking at her, Kang Chul wondered if she had truly moved on from the day her dreams were crushed, or if it was all an act. The next day at school, Mu arrived without a backpack or books. He only carried Kang Chul's weapon and his battered assistant Lim, who was still dizzy from being kicked. The other students, including the neutered bully, stared at the lizard. "Is that a Komodo dragon?" they whispered, but no one dared to ask. Then Kim Yoo-jin, the class president, appeared. Her face lit up like a Christmas tree when she saw Lim. Mu reminded her of their deal. It was time for the favor. Mu described his target, a guy in a mask and protective glasses. Kim immediately knew who he meant. "That's the bully hunter," she explained. "He's a legend who hunts anyone he sees causing trouble." Mu was disappointed she didn't have a name, but he knew they'd meet again. He was right. Suddenly, a voice whispered in Mu's ear from behind. "Stay in your seat after class. I'll come find you." It was Kang Chul. He had been observing them the whole time. The encounter was so sudden that Mu got literal goosebumps. For the rest of the school day, Mu sat with a terrifyingly excited expression. To everyone else, he looked calm, but underneath his desk, his right leg was shaking so violently with nerves and excitement that it felt like an earthquake. Poor Lim, hiding inside Mu's pant leg, was getting motion sickness from the vibration. Finally, the bell rang. The school emptied out. Mu wasted no time. He grabbed the nauseous lizard and handed him to Kim Yoo-jin. "I have urgent business," he said. Kim happily took the lizard and left, unaware that Lim was one squeeze away from throwing up. Mu sat alone in the classroom. Suddenly, a figure jumped through the window. It was Kang Chul. He closed the door, pulled out professional training gloves, and started putting them on. "Do you really like fighting that much?" Kang Chul asked coldly. Mu shook his head. "I don't do it because it's fun." But in his mind, the truth was different. He lived for the sharp pain of a punch, the burn in his muscles as he broke his limits, and the pure adrenaline that had kept him feeling alive for 30 million years. To Mu, fighting wasn't a hobby. It was his entire existence. Mu didn't fight for fun. He fought because it was his nature. To him, the burn in his muscles and the impact of a punch were the only things that made him feel truly alive. Kang Chul, seeing Mu's creepy, overexcited face, felt like he was locked in a room with a psycho. He tossed a pair of training gloves to Mu, insisting on a fair spar, not a life-and-death brawl. Mu didn't even flinch as the gloves hit his face. He just caught them in midair and pulled them on. The fight exploded instantly. Mu charged like a wild animal, but Kang Chul was a pro. He dodged and blocked with surgical precision. Kang reminded himself to stay relaxed, using rotational force to transfer power from his feet to his fists. He landed 2 massive hooks right on Mu's jaw. Kang was satisfied his technique was perfect. Mu was genuinely impressed. If it wasn't for the Dragon Blood Orb enhancement, his jaw would have been shattered. But instead of backing down, the pain only fueled him. He was thrilled. This was the challenge he craved. Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor, a sleepy red-haired boy woke up from a nightmare. Confused and hungry, he grabbed a snack and started heading out of the school. As he passed the 2nd floor, he saw 2 shadows locked in a fierce battle inside a classroom. It was Mu and Kang Chul. Inside the room, Mu was getting cornered. Thinking fast, he broke the rules of boxing and launched a powerful kick straight into Kang Chul's chest. Kang Chul stumbled back, shocked. "Why are you using your legs? Kicking is forbidden in boxing," Mu smirked. "Boxing? I don't even know what that is. Who said this was a fist fight?" He followed up with another solid kick, sending the pro boxer into a defensive corner. Kang Chul was reeling. He wasn't trained to handle kicks from someone this powerful. Mu saw a perfect opening and aimed a devastating kick at one of Kang Chul's vital points. Kang froze, thinking it was game over. Thud. The kick landed, but nothing happened. No pain, no impact. Mu jumped back, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. The dragon's enhancement had just run out. The magical buff was gone, leaving him in Lee Ho's fragile, mortal body. Kang Chul, confused but quick-witted, noticed the sudden change. He didn't know about magic or dragons, but he saw Mu's strength evaporate. He smirked mockingly. "Don't tell me, you're already out of gas?" Kang Chul laughed, thinking Mu had simply reached his physical limit. The red-haired boy watching from the door felt disgusted. To him, this looked like 2 losers flailing around and laughing. He turned and walked away, unimpressed. As soon as the bystander left, Kang Chul stopped laughing and charged. Mu tried to use his leg to block, but without the magical boost, his reflexes were sluggish. Kang Chul didn't aim for the head. He targeted the opening Mu had left in his stance. Crack! A single strike hit Mu's knee, sending a wave of agonizing pain through his body. Being on one leg, Mu spun nearly 90 degrees, completely losing his balance. Kang Chul didn't waste a second. He had the perfect opening for a finishing move. Kang Chul landed a bone-crushing punch that sent Mu flying across the room. Without the dragon's buff, Mu's human body was like paper against a professional boxer. But Mu wasn't done. He decided to attempt the impossible, summoning his original inner mana. He focused every ounce of his soul into his fist and charged. To Kang Chul, it looked like a weak child's punch. He caught Mu's fist in midair and began to mock him. But suddenly, Kang felt a strange, chilling energy ripple through his body. He was so caught off guard that he looked behind him to see what happened, and that was his mistake. Mu didn't waste a millisecond. He landed a solid punch right on Kang's jaw. Kang grabbed Mu's other hand, but again, a wave of raw energy surged through his back. Instinctively, he looked away again. Mu seized the moment and used his most reliable weapon, a massive headbutt. Thud! Kang Chul was sent flying into the classroom door and collapsed, completely knocked out. Mu stood over him panting, realizing he had finally channeled a tiny spark of mana into his fist. He walked toward Kang's unconscious face, ready to leave his mark. But Kang Chul's champion instincts kicked in. He woke up just in time to see Mu reaching for his ear. Realizing he was about to be neutered like the other bullies, Kang pushed Mu back and scrambled away. He was dizzy, bleeding, and confused by that weird energy, so he decided to make a run for it before things got even weirder. Meanwhile, the tiny lizard Lim was struggling. He was carrying a bag twice his size filled with gear for his master. To avoid humans, he started leaping across rooftops. Suddenly, he spotted the limping Kang Chul below. "The guy who kicked me!" Lim saw his chance for revenge. He dropped the bag, crouched, and launched himself like a bullet for a headbutt. Bad move. Even in his dizzy state, Kang Chul saw the green blur and swatted it out of the air like a fly. Smack! The poor lizard hit the pavement. Kang Chul looked at the weird creature, muttered something about hallucinations, and kept walking. Mu arrived a moment later, staring at his half-dead assistant on the ground and wondering what was in the bag. The next morning, Mu was on his way to school, looking like a totally different person. He was wearing a brand new uniform and a fresh backpack thanks to his royal assistant Kim Yujin. Lim was tucked safely inside the bag, declaring it his new official home. As they walked, Kang Chul appeared from across the street. He looked at Mu's sharp outfit and blinked in confusion. He walked up to him and asked the most embarrassing question possible. Why are you wearing a school uniform on a Saturday? Mu stood there, completely expressionless, as the realization hit him. Saturday? What about it? Mu replied blankly. Kang Chul sighed, realizing Mu was socially clueless, but he didn't care. He asked the one question that had been bugging him. Do you really like fighting? Mu gave the same answer. I do it because I have to. Kang didn't believe him, not after seeing that thirsty, thrilled look on Mu's face. Still, Kang made an offer. Spend time with me. If we're together, I won't be bored, and I won't have to look for fights. Mu's body literally began to tremble with excitement. He didn't need words. His scary, wide grin said it all. Then, he immediately ruined the moment by demanding, "Take me to a fight right now." Kang Chul had to calm him down, explaining he meant future fights, not a 24/7 brawl. Meanwhile, at another high school, a massive bully named Young Jo was losing his mind. He was a beast built exactly like Mu's original god form. One of his lackeys, the thief Mu had beaten earlier, was crying because he only collected 20,000 won. Kang Chul ruined everything, the thief wailed. Hearing that name made Young Jo punch a hole in the wall. He was tired of the bully hunter messing with his business. Find him, now, Young Jo barked to his gang. Cut to Saturday evening. Mu and Kang Chul were roaming the streets. Kang Chul was opening up about how fighting Mu made him enjoy combat more. Mu joked, "Then just fight me every day." Kang laughed it off, promising a rematch one day. Suddenly, Kang sniffed the air. Cigarette smoke, lots of it. He pulled on his mask and glasses. The first targets had appeared. They found a group of bullies in an alley. One of them tried to shake Kang down for his wallet. Bam! Kang Chul's fist answered for him. "It's the bully hunter!" Someone screamed. Suddenly, 5 more thugs emerged. Kang Chul called for backup, and Mu stepped out of the shadows, blushing with pure hype. Mu waited for the first hit rule, and he got it when a thug grabbed his leg. Mu and Kang Chul tore through them in minutes. Mu was disappointed they were too weak, but during the scuffle, Kang Chul found a dropped bag. He returned it to its owner, a red-haired girl who was his secret crush. Before he could act cool, thugs arrived. This was a setup. The first group had sent a message. Kang spotted. Young Jo arrived with his entire army. Kang Chul pulled out his weapon, ready to get serious. Mu's disappointment vanished. He was so overstimulated by the thought of an all-out war that he actually started drooling. Without waiting for a signal, Mu lunged into the crowd, knocking out 3 guys with single strikes. He felt invincible. Slam! A massive hand caught Mu off guard and smashed him into the pavement. It was Young Jo. "Why are there 2 of you?" the giant growled. Not far away, Ha Jun, the sleepy red-haired boy from the previous day, was walking by. He saw the herd of wild goats fighting and felt disgusted. He was about to walk away when he saw the girl and Kang Chul trying to protect her. Ha-jun froze. Something in his past was triggered. Ha-jun's hatred for fighting wasn't random, it was trauma. His father had been an MMA legend, a hero to the world, but a monster at home. To enhance his strength, his father turned to illegal drugs, which eventually rotted his mind and turned him into a violent addict. Ha-jun's mother fled for her life, leaving Ha-jun alone to protect his little sister. For years, Ha-jun became a human shield, taking every blow to keep his sister safe. He spent his nights watching tapes of his father's old fights, obsessively learning every move and technique in secret. One day, the limit was reached. When his father threatened to kill his sister, Ha-jun snapped. Using the very techniques he'd studied, he did the unthinkable. He killed his father. The court ruled it self-defense and protection of a minor, giving him only 1 year in juvenile detention. Now, back in school, Ha-jun worked day and night to provide for his sister. To him, his body was a tool for survival, which is why seeing combat junkies like Mu and Kang Chul made him sick. But today, he couldn't walk away, because the girl in the middle of the alley was his sister, Dal-jun. Young Jo was still gloating over the unconscious Mu when a shadow flickered behind him. Crack! With a surgical strike to a vital spot, Ha-jun sent the giant Young Jo to his knees. Before the bully could even process the pain, Ha-jun grabbed his head and slammed it into the concrete. The king was down. Lim, the tiny dragon, was frantically trying to wake Mu when Ha-jun literally stepped over them, ignoring the god entirely to reach his sister. Kang Chul watched in shock as Ha-jun moved like a ghost, taking out 2 more thugs by smashing their heads against the walls in a single, fluid motion. "You crossed the line," Ha-jun said, his voice cold as ice. Kang Chul tried to explain, but Dal-jun screamed, "Brother?" Kang Chul froze. They really were siblings. Ha-jun didn't wait. He lunged at Kang Chul. Even though Kang was a champion boxer, he barely dodged Ha-jun's strike. Instead of a punch, Ha-jun gave him a powerful shove, grabbed Dal-jun's hand, and shouted, "Wake up! Run with me!" In the chaos, Dal-jun's small blue wallet fell to the ground, unnoticed. They ran toward the exit, but a bloody and furious Young Jo was already standing there, blocking their path. "Who are you people?" Young Jo roared. But before Ha-jun could strike, a fist came flying from the side and buried itself in Young Jo's face. It was Mu. He was back on his feet and more hyped than ever. Ha-jun didn't care who his savior was. He took the opening and disappeared into the night with his sister. Mu was laughing, finally getting the brawl he wanted. Kang-chul yelled at him, "You idiot! You exposed your face. Now everyone knows who you are." Yangzhou, barely standing and vision blurry, watched them escape. He spat blood and cursed, "I'll find you. I'll find all of you and tear you apart." Hours later, Kang-chul was sketching a map and a portrait of Yangzhou for Mu. "That guy is the most notorious delinquent in the district," Kang warned. But he knew it wasn't just Yangzhou people like him never hunted alone. Kang-chul sat Mu down to explain the real threat, Godori. This wasn't just a random gang. It was a triad of terror led by 3 top bullies from 3 different schools, Kwak Dugwan, Kim Chung-gu, and the monster Mu had just faced, Yangzhou. Since Yangzhou took over, the streets had turned into a playground for extortion and violence. Kang-chul gave a detailed, strategic breakdown, but Mu just stared at him blankly. "Hey, explain that delinquent part again. And what the hell is a Godori?" Mu asked. Kang-chul nearly snapped. "Do you have a brain, or is that just for decoration?" Suddenly, Liam popped out of his hiding spot, offended on behalf of his master. Kang-chul jumped back. "How can a frog talk?" Liam, who still identifies as a majestic dragon, was furious at being called a frog. Mu casually introduced him as his assistant, making the vibe even weirder. Kang-chul was now convinced he was stuck with a complete lunatic. "Are you an alien?" Kang asked. Mu replied deadpan, "I am a god." Naturally, Mu then asked, "What's an alien?" Proving he was indeed clueless about Earth. This whole hilarious mess was happening inside Class President Kim's house, where she was irritably sewing Mu's torn shirt. Her mood only softened when Liam sat at her feet to play games on her phone. Kang-chul tried to simplify things for Mu's tiny human brain. "God or aliens, it doesn't matter. Our target is the guy who slapped you and hurt Daljun." Mentioning the girl made Kang's blood boil, while the thought of a rematch made Mu drool. Mu knew he couldn't beat Yangzhou, yet the size difference was too much. He needed training, but he rejected Kang-chul's boxing gym. He wanted something rougher, something more diverse. Right then, Liam jumped up with Kim's phone. "I found it, master." He showed them an online video of an underground arena. An undefeated fighter was on a 13-win streak, knocking people out in seconds. The prize, 1 million won. Kang-chul's eyes widened. "That guy! He's a member of the Godori gang." Mu grinned. It was perfect. He could train, make money, and take down Yangzhou's lieutenants one by one. Meanwhile, in the divine realm, a massive magical blast rocked the Earth God's domain. It was Lucifer, pouring every ounce of his spite into breaking the barrier. He knew he had to kill Mu now while he was weak. If Mu regained his strength, Lucifer was dead. As the smoke cleared, Lucifer stared at the mini-Earth, expecting it to be shattered. But there wasn't a single scratch. The barrier was invincible. Lucifer roared in frustration, remembering the day Mu had broken his planet's barrier with a simple flick of a finger and tossed him inside like garbage. Now, no matter what Lucifer did, he couldn't even dent Mu's protection. The gap between them was still haunting him. While Lucifer was throwing a tantrum in the divine realm, Yangzhou was having his own meltdown on Earth. Furious and humiliated, he started punching a random door to vent his rage, only to realize it was a public restroom with a terrified person locked inside. Yangzhou left feeling even more like a loser until his lackey handed him a blue wallet dropped during the chaos. Inside was Daljun's school ID. Yangzhou's face twisted into a demonic smirk. He didn't need to hunt the bully hunters anymore. He just had to find the girl on this card. The next morning, Mu and Liam were trekking through the city. Liam was acting as the navigator, using a map from Kim Yujin. As they walked past a man with his dog, Liam accidentally let out a tiny, high-pressure dragon fart. To a human, it was nothing. To a dog's nose, it was a chemical weapon. The dog went absolutely berserk, lunging at Liam and giving him a justice bite right on his scaly butt. After the punishment, the dog walked away satisfied, leaving Liam fuming and promising a bloody revenge on all canines. They finally reached the underground arena. A young girl was at a desk, screening participants. When she saw Mu's school uniform, she asked if he was a high schooler. Liam whispered from the backpack, "Just say yes." Mu, being Mu, agreed. Then came the big question. "What is your fighting experience? Boxing? MMA?" Mu counted on his fingers, used 100% of his brain power, and announced proudly, "I have 3 million years of all kinds of fighting experience." The crowd exploded in laughter, thinking he was an absolute idiot. But the girl liked his confidence and let him in. The entry fee was 50,000 won. Liam pulled the money out of thin air, actually. He had pickpocketed Kim Yujin's wallet earlier. Since neither the god nor the dragon knew how to count human money, they only handed over 46,000 won. Luckily, the girl gave Mu a cute discount and let him pass. As Mu walked into the arena, he stopped dead. He saw a massive fighter leaning against a pillar, wearing a green hat and jacket. The muscle definition was insane. Mu knew instantly this wasn't a normal thug. This was a Godori-level threat. But then, the fighter turned around, and there was a twist. It was a person so pretty, they looked like a girl, yet possessed the frame of a titan. The announcer girl jumped into the center of the ring. She introduced the reigning king, Whistle Go, a monster on a 13-win streak. Mu, completely skipping the line and ignoring all the rules, walked straight into the center of the arena. He took a fighting stance and shouted, "I'm ready! Let's go!" The entire room went silent. The announcer stared at him in shock. Mu just stood there with his goofy, clueless smile, having no idea that this wasn't a one-on-one match yet. He had just crashed the main event. "Begin the fight right now," Mu shouted, ready to throw the first punch. He thought standing in the ring meant it was go time, but the announcer girl rushed in, looking at Mu like he had 0 IQ. She pulled out a tournament bracket and explained the rules. You can't just fight the champion. You have to win your qualifying matches first. Mu, realizing he had no choice, decided to cooperate. An hour later, after 3 boring fights, it was finally Mu's turn. His opponent, the owner of the dog that had bitten Liam's butt. The host girl hyped up the crowd, introducing Mu, the guy who claims to have 3 million years of experience. The crowd laughed, clearly not buying it. Then she introduced his opponent, a disciplined master of Chinese martial arts. Liam was watching from the sidelines, but his attention was snatched away by a loud, familiar barking. It was the same dog from earlier. Consumed by rage, Liam didn't crawl. He leapt into the arena with the grace of a master assassin. The crowd gasped as the lizard and the dog stared each other down. It was like they were talking telepathically. The dog nodded, broke free from his collar, and charged into the center of the ring. The announcer girl smelled viral content and immediately pivoted. It's a double battle. Owners versus owners and pets versus pets. She introduced the second match. The tiny lizard with the fresh tail versus the crazy Chinese dog. The Chinese fighter took a confident stance. My style mimics the movements of wild animals, he warned. No unarmed human can stand against my tiger style. He lunged at Mu with claw-like fingers moving with terrifying speed. Mu didn't move. He just stood there, calm as a statue. As the tiger reached him, Mu delivered a lightning-fast punch straight to the guy's gut. Bam! The fighter couldn't even scream. The air left his lungs instantly as he hit the floor. You can copy animals all you want, Mu said coldly, but a human body has limits. Your moves are predictable. The Chinese fighter struggled to get up. He realized Mu was like a concrete wall. Desperate, he ignored his master's warnings and dropped to all fours, entering a forbidden stance. While Mu was confused by the guy's new frog-like posture, the crowd's eyes were on the pet battle. Liam, who had 0 magical strength left, was trying to strategize, but before he could think, the dog performed a ninja move. Suddenly, there were 3 dogs in the ring. It was a high-speed illusion. Liam panicked and attacked the middle dog. Mistake. The real dog was on the left. The dog, named Cerberus, lunged and sank its teeth into Liam's neck. And the dog takes the win, the streamer girl shouted to her thousands of viewers. But Cerberus wasn't done. He was hungry for more. Back to the main fight. The Chinese fighter was now sprinting at Mu on all fours, looking more like a beast than a man. The crowd started laughing at the weird, funny-looking technique. Hidden in the shadows, the fighter's old master watched in shame. He had forbidden this move for a reason. It was too wild, too uncontrollable. Mu, however, remained unfazed. He just watched the beast charge at him, waiting for the perfect moment to end this comedy. The Chinese fighter didn't care about the crowd or his master's warnings. He was laser-focused on Mu. He launched into the air, a tiger paw strike aimed right at Mu's face. Mu was genuinely surprised. One second the guy was low to the ground, the next he was swiping at Mu's eyes like a wild beast. Scratch! Mu doubled over, clutching his face. For a second, it looked like he was shredded, but when he pulled his hands away, there were only 4 light scratches. I underestimated you, Mu muttered. If the guy had actual claws instead of fingernails, Mu would have been in serious trouble. The fighter didn't stop. He started a chaotic remix of animal styles, moving like a cat, biting like a chihuahua, and throwing back kicks like an angry mule. Mu was stuck. He had never fought anyone so unpredictable. But true to his nature, the challenge made him thrilled. He looked over at Cerberus the dog and had an epiphany. If he's mimicking 4-legged animals, he must have their weakness too, the spine at the back of the neck. Mu dropped into a deep crouch, loading his legs like heavy-duty springs. The Chinese fighter slowed down, sensing a trap, but it was too late. Mu launched himself upward like a giant kangaroo, jumping so high he vanished from the opponent's sight. The crowd went wild, phones out, recording the impossible leap. Mu landed 1 foot on the guy's head and delivered a brutal kick to his backside, sending the beast face first into the dirt. As the crowd cheered, Mu looked over at his assistant. Liam was a mess. Cerberus had absolutely thrashed the poor lizard. Mu gave the dog a god-tier death stare. The dog's instincts screamed, "Abort!" and it immediately flipped onto its back, faking death to survive. The announcer girl screamed, "Winner, Mu!" And by the rules, the dog now belongs to him. Mu wanted to leave his signature mark on the loser, but the crowd warned him, "Don't do it! It's a live stream. Don't catch a case." Mu backed off, letting the tournament continue. After an hour of blood and sweat, the finalists were decided. The 13-streak champion was waiting, but Mu had one more hurdle. Match 7. His opponent stepped into the ring, and the room went cold. It was Sheol, the professional boxer Mu had demolished before. Sheol was covered in bandages, his arm still healing, but he was here for one thing: redemption. Mu, being slow on the uptake, stared for a while before his face lit up. He looked like a kid who just found his favorite toy at the bottom of a cereal box. "Hey, it's the tough guy!" Sheol narrowed his eyes, his guard held high. "I won't let you win this time," he growled. "Fight!" the announcer yelled. Both fighters lunged simultaneously. Boom! Their fists collided with a sickening thud. Mu's eyes widened. A sharp, stinging pain shot through his fingers. Sheol's arm, though previously broken, felt like it was made of solid steel. Mu pulled his hand back, his fingers trembling in agony. Sheol smirked, finally tasting a bit of revenge. The pain was intense, enough to make a normal man quit, but Mu just gripped his throbbing hand and smiled. "This pain, it reminds me I'm alive," he whispered. "This is exactly why I came to Earth." Mu's twisted, intense expression sent a chill through Sheol. The pro boxer realized Mu wasn't just a weird kid, he was a threat. Sheol launched a jab storm to distract Mu, planning to end it with a surprise high kick. But Mu saw it coming. He read the tension in Sheol's leg muscles before the foot even left the ground. As Sheol started trash-talking, thinking the fight was over, Mu executed the perfect counter. He used the 90-degree pivot technique he'd learned from Kang Chul, slamming a punch into Sheol's vital spot. Sheol spun around, defenseless. Then came the second part, a brutal face strike. Crack! Chio hit the floor unconscious. Ignoring every warning, Mu leaped onto him and claimed his other ear. The bully from Mu's class, watching from the crowd, nearly fainted in terror. The grand final, Mu versus the 13-streak champion. The tall girl, a pro taekwondo fighter, didn't wait for the intro. As Mu charged, she landed a solid kick right to his face. Mu saved his head at the last second, but he was impressed. For the first few minutes, it was a one-sided beatdown. The girl's reach was too long, and her kicks were too fast. Mu was stuck in a dodge and block loop, unable to find an opening. Mu decided to play dirty. He made the silly face he used against Kang Chul. The girl hesitated, wondering if Mu was having a medical emergency. Mu lunged, but she recovered instantly and kicked him back. Mu realized his small human body was his biggest handicap. I should have possessed a taller guy, he grumbled. The champion got serious. She launched a devastating midsection kick, followed by a flying spinning kick. Mu was cornered. A clean hit would end him, but as the foot approached his head, Mu vanished. The girl landed gracefully, looking around in shock. Then she saw him. Mu was on all fours, scuttling across the floor like a wild animal. He was perfectly copying the beast style of the Chinese fighter he'd beaten earlier. How do I hit something this low? The girl panicked. As Mu scuttled around her like a rabid dog, her sharp kicks started missing. She was getting anxious. The crowd went wild for the new technique. The Chinese fighter, watching from the stands, was dying of jealousy. It took him 5 years to learn that style, and Mu had mastered it in 5 minutes. Even the ghost of the Chinese master was nodding in approval. Mu didn't just dodge. He started circling her at high speed. What kind of animal moves like this? She thought. A cockroach? Sensing an attack from her blind spot, she spun and delivered a powerful kick. Thwack! She hit something. But when the dust cleared, she realized she had only kicked her own hat, which Mu had somehow used as a decoy in midair. Mu reappeared on her opposite side, moving faster than lightning. He was now right in her personal space, and the long-legged champion had no room to kick. The tall champion realized too late that she had been played. Mu's animal act was a perfect distraction. Now, it was his turn to shine, not by mimicking small pets, but by channeling a mighty behemoth. 3,000 years ago, before becoming the god of Earth, Mu lived on a planet designated by Lucifer, a place overflowing with mana where animals evolved into monsters. Mu hadn't just survived, he hunted them. Today, he chose to replicate the behemoth, a creature he still respected. He adjusted his muscles, mimicking the creature's massive frame. He didn't just punch, he collided with her like a speeding truck. The force was so immense that the girl was launched through the air, crashing into the registration table. She wasn't unconscious, but her ribs were likely shattered. Mu leaped for a final crushing blow, but the short announcer girl intercepted him, declaring the match over because the champion was out of the ring. The crowd was stunned by this weird excuse, but the announcer ended the stream with a fake smile. Once the cameras were off, her face turned cold. "Follow me for your 1,000,000 won," she told Mu. They walked into a deserted alley. For a second, it seemed like a regular transaction, but then the girl spun around with lightning speed. Boom! She landed a brutal knee strike directly into Mu's chest. Mu hit the ground, paralyzed and gasping. He had sensed her muscle tension and let her hit him to trigger his first strike instinct, but he hadn't expected her to be this powerful. "I am Kim Chung-gu, one of the top 3 of Godori," she announced. Mu, the guy who had ignored everyone, had just been humbled by the very boss he was looking for. The tall champion joined her, bowing in shame, and the two disappeared into the shadows. Mu tried to crawl after them, wheezing, "Don't go, I can still fight," but he was too weak. He looked for Liam to get a healing buff, only to realize his lizard assistant had been missing since they left the arena. Elsewhere in the city, Lee's old bully was sprinting through the streets, drenched in sweat and clutching something under his shirt. His life was falling apart. After getting hooked on a gambling site recommended by Cheol, he had lost 5,000,000 won of his mother's savings in just 10 minutes. Every time he tried to win it back, the debt grew. Desperate and guilty, he'd stolen something valuable from home. He finally reached a shady office that gave loans to students. He threw the bundle wrapped in his shirt onto the table. The man sitting there, a professional loan shark, watched him with cold eyes as he began to unwrap the collateral. The loan shark looked at the battered bully with pure irritation. "What do you want?" he barked. The bully, panting for breath, unwrapped his shirt to reveal a familiar face, Liam, the dragonling, bound and gagged. The bully pulled out his phone, showing a photo of a tuatara, a rare lizard from New Zealand. "He's a mutated species, super rare, worth millions," he lied, trying to convince the shark to take the dragon as collateral. The man behind the counter was skeptical, but a nod from the true boss, a mysterious figure in a purple hoodie sitting in the corner, settled it. The bully got his 1,000,000 won and ran out, hoping to win back his mom's gambling money. As he left, he passed a person in a hoodie entering the same building. "Grandma Money Collateral Loans." The new person walked in and placed Daljun's school ID on the desk. "I need a short-term loan. Give me as much as you can," the figure whispered, sweating under the hoodie. The shark ordered them to show their faces. It wasn't Daljun, but the resemblance was haunting. Same features, different hair and eyes. The boss nodded again, granting the fake Daljun 4,500 won. Outside, the mastermind was waiting. "Yangzhou, did you get it?" he asked. The fake Daljun handed over the cash. Yangzhou smirked. His plan was working. Back in the office, the boss stylishly pinned Daljun's ID to a wooden board. The board was already covered in IDs, and right in the center, bound like a trophy, was Liam. "Don't worry about the money," the boss smirked. "There are many ways to collect." A scream echoed through the school hallway. President Kim had found out Liam was missing. Mu casually suggested Liam might be at her house, but Kim's freakout told him otherwise. She tore through the classrooms, checking every corner while the person responsible for the disappearance stood right behind her. Even Kong Chul was drawn in by the chaos. Later, the teacher dragged a sobbing Kim back to her seat in front of Mu. "I searched the whole school, nothing," she wailed. Moo, totally chill, finally dropped the truth. I actually lost him at the arena yesterday. Kim exploded. Why didn't you say that sooner? Moo pulled out the hand-drawn map Kim had made for Liam. Before he could point to the last location, Kim snatched the map and bolted only to be caught by the teacher again and forced to stay in class. Moo didn't comfort her. He was too busy thinking about his unfinished business with the Godori top 3. His body was screaming for rest, his muscles overused, but the exhaustion made him feel more alive than ever. He needed another healing orb, which meant he had to find Liam. As soon as the final bell rang, Kim grabbed Moo's aching hand and dragged him toward the stairs. They crashed into Kang Chul, who was with Daljun. Where's the fire? Kang asked. Kim started to explain about Liam, but Daljun interrupted, crying that her wallet was missing. Kim blinked, momentarily distracted. Is she your girlfriend? She asked Kang. Both Kang and Daljun made disgusted faces. Oh, no! Kim apologized for the awkwardness, but then started bawling again. I need help finding my cute pet. Moo tried to chime in with his own logic. He used to be a giant dragon, but now he's shrunk. Kang Chul just stared at Moo, more confused than ever. Moo stood in the hallway, describing Liam's details to a crowd that had already disappeared. Feeling left out, he shrugged and decided to focus on his own recovery and training. Meanwhile, in the school bathroom, Youngjo was multitasking, handling business while gambling on his phone. Suddenly, he slammed his head against the stall door in pure joy. He thought he had hit a massive jackpot, a miracle after losing everything. But as he went to withdraw the money, his smile froze. It was a total scam. He hadn't won anything. He had lost everything the moment the game started. He was left in a state of helpless shock. 6 days passed. Moo was behaving wildly again, standing in the middle of a path and staring at a teacher with his signature goofy smile. For those 6 days, President Kim and Daljun had been running a non-stop search party, scouring every corner where Liam was last seen. Even Kang Chul helped, but they found nothing, not even a single scale. On the 6th day, the girls were exhausted. Kim felt guilty for dragging Daljun into this mess, but Daljun just smiled it off. Kim offered to grab drinks while Daljun rested, unaware that a suspicious man was approaching Daljun with her ID card in his hand. When Kim returned, Daljun's seat was empty. Back at school, Moo wasn't trying to provoke the teacher. He was genuinely impressed by the man's perfectly trained physique. The teacher was confused until Moo touched his chest and said, "You've worked hard on this part, right?" Flattered, but annoyed by the casual tone, the teacher let it slide until Moo suddenly announced he was joining the teacher's training session without asking for permission, leaving the man speechless. In another part of the city, Daljun was at Grandma's pawn shop demanding her ID back. The thugs claimed she had pawned it for a loan, a debt of 5,500 won, including interest. Daljun knew it was a lie, but realized arguing was useless. She promised to pay within a week and left, slamming the door. The next night, the shop employee locked up and tossed the key into a flower pot, complaining about his boss. Little did he know, Daljun was hiding on the upper floor, waiting for this exact moment. Daljun grabbed the key and snuck into the office to take her ID back. As she moved toward the exit, she heard a loud sound from a dark cage. Curiosity won over fear, and she opened it to find a pair of glowing eyes. It was Liam, the dragonling, screaming to be let out. Daljun was terrified by the sight of the winged lizard, but remembered Kim's search posters and decided to rescue him. Suddenly, she bumped into something big and soft. She turned around to see Youngjo standing right behind her. He quickly covered her mouth. "Shh, be quiet, or they'll know I'm here." He recognized her as the girl whose ID he had pawned. He explained he was also there to steal back his collateral. They agreed to finish their business quietly and leave. Daljun rescued Liam and grabbed her ID, feeling disgusted that these people would not only steal IDs, but lock up someone's pet too. Daljun had no idea she was the star of a security cam highlight reel. The next morning, she sprinted toward Kim, shouting her name until she caught up. Kim was speechless. She didn't expect Daljun to return so casually after vanishing, but Daljun just smiled and unzipped her bag. Out popped 2 tiny claws, followed by a gasping Liam, who was nearly suffocated from the lack of oxygen. Kim shrieked with joy, hugging the lizard tight, but Liam didn't care about the hugs. He caught a familiar scent and bolted toward Moo. Moo was walking casually when Liam grabbed his arm. Reflexively, Moo, whose body was already battered from training, flung the lizard off with a cold, "Watch it! My whole body aches!" Kim scolded him for being heartless, but Moo didn't blink. He had zero room for sentiment. Meanwhile, at Grandma Moneyloan's, the atmosphere was lethal. The staff had discovered the missing IDs and the lizard. The security footage showed everything. Daljun sneaking in and Youngjo taking his card. The boss was vibrating with rage. 2 high schoolers had walked into his fortress and challenged his authority. He was ready to make someone pay. Back at school during gym class, a stray soccer ball flew through the air and hit Moo squarely in the face. Thwack! Moo didn't even flinch. He didn't know the rules of soccer. He just knew he never backs down from a proactive attack. As the ball dropped, Moo locked eyes with the bald kid who kicked it and charged. Before the kid could apologize, Moo buried a fist in his stomach. The gym turned into a total riot as students tried to pull Moo off, but to Moo, this was just part of a high-intensity workout. While the chaos unfolded, Kim and Liam found a quiet spot. She handed him her old phone. "If you ever need help, text me. Moo clearly doesn't have a phone, so you keep this." Liam stared at the device like it was alien technology while Kim tried to explain Wi-Fi. Suddenly, Liam spotted a familiar face nearby, the bully who had kidnapped him, still losing money on his gambling app. Without a word, Liam dropped the phone and lunged, sinking his teeth into the bully's forehead. The guy panicked, threw the lizard off, and ran for his life. The fleeing bully crashed right into Mu, who was walking with his teacher. Mu looked down at the boy with a creepy gym-time smile and started pummeling him again until the teacher dragged him away. Mu was having the best day ever. As they walked home, Kim invited Mu and Leem to her house to teach them how to use the phone. Nearby, Daljun and her friends were laughing, unaware of the shadow following them. Kangchul was behind them, rubbing a stiff neck, followed by Ha-jun on a call. Suddenly, a battered and exhausted Youngjo stepped into Daljun's path. "Hey, wallet owner, give me your ID, now!" Daljun was confused. Youngjo started rambling about security cameras and returning the ID to someone searching for it. When she hesitated, he lost his temper and started grabbing her backpack. It only took a second for Kangchul and Ha-jun to notice a grown man harassing their friend. Kangchul and Ha-jun had officially snapped. Seeing Youngjo harass Daljun sent them into a blind rage. They launched into the air, aiming a double-team punch at Youngjo's face. But out of nowhere, block! Mu stepped in and stopped both their strikes. He wasn't there to save Youngjo, he just didn't want anyone stealing his one-on-one rematch. Confused but quick, Youngjo grabbed Daljun and sprinted into a narrow alley, the same one where she had been kidnapped before. Mu, Kangchul, and Ha-jun chased him down until they hit a dead end. Youngjo dumped Daljun on the ground and squared up. "I'll take you all on," he barked. Mu stepped forward, but Ha-jun was screaming in frustration. "Why did you block us? You're putting my sister in danger just for a game." Mu just grinned. "I'll deal with you after I'm done with him." While Mu was distracted, Youngjo grabbed his shoulder and squeezed with bone-crushing force. Mu's face twisted in pain, but he kept that signature creepy smile. Youngjo executed a perfect judo leg sweep, slamming Mu into the concrete with a loud thud. Ha-jun saw the opening, grabbed Daljun, and bolted in the opposite direction, prioritizing his sister's safety. Mu stood back up like it was nothing. "My back muscles are like a natural shield thanks to my teacher's training," he boasted. Kangchul offered to help, but Mu waved him off. Youngjo attacked again, grabbing Mu's shirt and slamming him into the dirt for a second time. Mu still looked unfazed. He felt invincible, but there was a catch he didn't realize until the last moment. Every time Mu hit the ground, he wasn't landing on concrete. His poor assistant, Leem, Dragonling, was trapped under his back, acting as a living airbag. Leem was taking 100% of the impact, crushed and gasping while Mu took all the credit. The turning point came when Youngjo aimed a kick at Mu's face. Mu jumped back, but in his mind, he thought Youngjo was trying to kick the helpless Leem. "How dare you target my assistant!" Mu roared, suddenly full of protective rage. He launched a barrage of heavy punches, moving so fast Youngjo couldn't even breathe. "This is for the Dragonling!" Mu shouted with every strike. To anyone watching, it looked like a hero protecting his pet. But deep down, Mu was just having the time of his life and using Leem as an excuse to go all out. Youngjo was being pulverized, realizing too late that Mu was a complete monster. Youngjo realized he was losing control, so he went for one last desperate move, a massive body slam. Mu saw the giant coming at him like a falling boulder. There was no room to dodge. The impact sent Mu flying, but he landed gracefully right next to Kangchul. Mu didn't say a word. He just handed Leem, Dragonling, to Kangchul and whispered, "Take care of him." Even though he was facing a monster, the challenge made Mu feel more alive than ever. Mu used his speed to target Youngjo's weak spots, landing heavy blows on his thighs until the giant started to wobble. Panicking, Youngjo pulled a cheap trick. "Hey, no fair! 2-on-1!" he shouted. Our confused hero, Mu, actually fell for it. He turned around to tell Kangchul to stay out of it, and in that split second, Youngjo locked him in a rear-naked choke. Mu was turning blue. Kangchul stepped forward to save him. But even while being strangled, Mu flashed that signature creepy grin and wheezed 2 words. "Don't help." Mu tapped into a 3-million-year-old secret. Just like he did with his back muscles during training, he tightened his neck muscles until they were hard as iron, then suddenly contracted them to create a tiny gap. He jammed his arms into that space and used pure leverage to rip Youngjo's grip apart. Youngjo was horrified. No normal high schooler should be able to break that hold. Mu then remembered his training session with the gym teacher. While the teacher thought Mu would break his back trying to squat insanely heavy weights, Mu had actually been practicing muscle fiber transfer. This ancient technique allowed him to shift the strength from one part of his body to another. The final blow, Mu focused everything. He transferred the muscle fibers from his left arm and lower body directly into his right fist. His right arm practically doubled in size and glowed with raw power. Mimicking the very first move he saw Kangchul use in class, Mu launched a devastating straight punch. Boom! It wasn't just a punch. It was a missile. Youngjo tried to block with both arms, but Mu's fist tore through his guard like it was made of paper. The impact sounded like a mountain cracking. Youngjo went airborne and slammed into the ground, completely unconscious. Mu stood over him, breathing heavily but victorious. Mu felt super victorious. He had flattened a guy twice his size, but just like before, he almost forgot his ritual. He walked over to the unconscious Youngjo, ripped a small piece of his ear, and marked him neutered. Chapter closed. One of Godori's biggest troublemakers was officially off the list. A few blocks away, Ha-jun was walking Daljun home. He finally asked why that guy was hunting her. Daljun, knowing how much her brother loved her, spilled everything from the moment Cheol saved her to the lost wallet and the 5,501 loan that turned her life into a nightmare. Hearing how his sister was bullied by grown men made Ha-jun's blood boil. He canceled his school meeting and headed straight for the grandma money office. Boom! The door flew open. Ha-jun stormed in and delivered a brutal punch straight to the boss's face. The employee in the black suit watched in shock and a little bit of joy as his bully of a boss got pulverized. Do something before I die, the boss wheezed. The employee called for backup, and 2 massive bodyguards stepped in. But Ha-jun didn't flinch. Usually calm and composed, something was shifting inside him. The blood of a demon, the very thing he hated most, was waking up. He was no longer a high school student. He was an unstoppable force. In less than 2 minutes, he cleared the room. He didn't have a single scratch. Why is my sister paying for a loan she never took? He demanded. The nephew, in the purple hoodie, tried to warn him about the consequences, but Ha-jun didn't care. Touch her again and I'll be back for worse, he growled before walking out. On the other side of town, Mu and Kang-chul were walking. Kang-chul was dying of curiosity. How did you double your arm size? Mu decided to show him. He shifted his muscle fibers right there on the street, making his left arm swell. Kang-chul tried to copy it, but his muscles just twitched awkwardly. You have to talk to your muscles, Mu explained. Every muscle has its own language. You have to be the boss who knows how to communicate with his workers. Leem, Dragonling, whispered, Why are you teaching an Earthling your secret technique? Mu just shrugged. If he gets stronger, the fights will be more fun. Besides, I need to level up for when Lucifer finally breaks through Earth's barrier. Mu wasn't taking chances. He was ready to train harder than ever. Meanwhile, the boy in the purple hoodie was called to meet the real boss, his uncle, the king of the gambling world with signature gold teeth. The nephew complained about the pawn shop, but Gold Teeth just smiled. Business has ups and downs. Stop crying. One day, this whole empire will be yours. Deep down, the uncle was disappointed his nephew couldn't even handle a bunch of school kids. He stood up, grabbed his nephew's hand, and led him toward another part of the building to show him something that would change everything. Down in the basement of the Grandma Money building, the 3 goons who got wrecked by Ha-jun were stripped and shivering. Their punishment from the big boss was severe. Failing against a high schooler was unacceptable. A guard shoved a mysterious blue pill into the mouth of a blonde employee and warned, If you spit this out, it'll be your last breath. The golden-toothed boss led his nephew into a secret elevator. You've been playing in the dirt with school kids, the uncle sneered. I'm going to show you the big leagues. The doors opened to a massive, illegal underground arena packed with wealthy gamblers. In the center of the ring stood the blonde employee from earlier, but he looked different. Purple veins were popping out of his neck and his muscles were bulging unnaturally. The fight began, and the blonde fighter moved with lightning speed. His opponent tried to block, but the sheer force of the blue pill punch shattered his arm and crushed his skull in seconds. The VIP section watched in awe as the uncle held up the blue pill. This is how I decide who wins. This is how I make millions. The nephew stared at the pill, absolutely terrified of the monster his uncle had created. Days later at the gym, Mu racked the barbell after a set of squats that would break a normal human. His body was visibly massive, veins popping like a pro bodybuilder. Man, I feel electricity running through my veins today, Mu exclaimed. His teacher was speechless. I've seen gym freaks, but nobody bulks this fast. Are you taking performance enhancers? Mu just wiped his sweat and ignored the lecture on drugs. He knew the truth. He still wasn't strong enough to face Lucifer, and he was pushing his body to its absolute limits. That evening, Mu and Leem, who was wearing Kim's phone like a championship belt, were wandering the streets. The phone rang. It was Kim, screaming at Mu for disappearing with her pet. Mu brushed her off, saying he was out to check the results of his hard work. He arrived at the same alleyway where the little girl, Chungo, had flattened him before. The girls were celebrating their recent streaming profits when they felt a chilling presence. Mu stepped out of the shadows with an evil smirk. Long time no see. Chungo didn't hesitate. She charged instantly, launching a flying knee strike directly into Mu's chest, the same move that knocked him out last time. Crack! She landed, expecting Mu to be on the floor, but Mu only took one tiny step back. His hands were still in his pockets. Leem panicked, but Mu just gave his classic grin. He had hardened his chest muscles before the impact, turning his body into a wall of iron. Chungo's eyes widened in shock. This wasn't the same boy she fought before. Mu was done playing defense. It was time to show them what a 3-million-year-old warrior really looks like. Mu was officially in beast mode. With Leem sitting on his head like a tiny cheerleader, Mu launched a barrage of punches at Chungo. Left, right, up, down, the little girl was suddenly on the defensive, barely managing to block his continuous assault. Mu felt the shift. For the first time, he felt like the bigger predator in the alley. To seal the deal, he delivered a massive sidekick. Thwack! But underestimating Chungo was a mistake. She caught Mu's leg midair. Furious that he was looking down on her, she drove her elbow straight into Mu's knee, hitting his exact weak point. Mu stumbled, his balance wavering, but he didn't fall. Chungo didn't stop there. She unleashed a brutal trinity of elbows, a horizontal strike to the jaw, an upward strike to the chin, and a spinning elbow to the ribs. Liam was shaking with fear, but Mu's creepy grin returned. He had tightened his muscles at the exact moment of impact to tank the damage. Mu grabbed Chungo by the collar, slammed her into the ground, and went for a finishing blow, but she dodged it just like he had dodged Yangzhou before. Mu realized he needed more speed. He shifted his muscle fibers into his legs and hips for a burst of mobility, then instantly transferred the power back to his upper body for a devastating body slam. Chungo went flying several meters, crashing into her friend Dojun, the taekwondo girl. Seeing her friend hurt, Dojun snapped. She launched a flurry of long-range kicks. Mu blocked most of them, realizing he had to close the distance to win. He lunged forward, swinging a punch meant to end the fight, but Chungo intercepted it, landing an elbow that nearly carved a hole in Mu's face. He didn't back down. He grabbed Chungo's head, but Dojun kicked him back just in time. The two girls realized they couldn't win individually. They teamed up, attacking from every direction. Mu was being pushed back, but he felt a sense of relief his training was actually working. He was surviving an assault that would have killed him a week ago. Suddenly, Mu looked at his assistant and had a genius idea to increase his attack range. Without warning, he grabbed Liam by the tail and started spinning him over his head like a living helicopter. "It's 2-on-2 now!" Mu roared as he charged forward, swinging the dizzy dragon like a mace. The girls froze for a split second, completely stunned by the sheer absurdity of his new weapon. The Dragon Liam missile connects instantly, landing a critical hit on Dojun's face before ricocheting into Chungo. It's a total double kill with one projectile. Mu doesn't let the combo drop, though. He treats Dragon Liam less like a pet and more like a legendary weapon, grabbing him by the tail and swinging him like a living flail. The poor dragon's hitbox is massive, resulting in a devastating AoE sweep that smacks both Chungo and Dojun into the ground. While the enemies get wrecked, Dragon Liam looks like he's screaming for the devs to nerf this abuse. Chungo thinks she's 5 head, assuming that equipping Dragon Liam as a weapon nerfs Mu's close-range defense. She tries to punish his cooldown with a surprise uppercut, but Mu is already 3 steps ahead. He pulls a total pro-gamer move, using Dragon Liam to smack Dojun in the face while simultaneously landing a devastating headbutt on Chungo. Mu explains that his neck muscles are maxed out to resist recoil, while Chungo's head just hit a brick wall. She's instantly disconnected from the match. Seeing his teammate get KO'd, Dojun tilts and goes full aggro. He lands a clean kick to Mu's ribs, but Mu just toggles his Iron Skin ability, flexing his side muscles to tank the hit with 0 damage. Dojun lands a desperate high kick to Mu's face, praying for a lucky critical hit. But Mu tanks it with 0 flinch, staring him down like, "Bro, did you really think that would work?" He snatches Dojun's leg out of the air, instantly applying hard crowd control. Dojun realizes he's trapped in a cutscene he can't skip. Mu grins, deciding to switch his build from pure DPS to submission grappler just to spice things up. He cranks the joint lock, and Dojun screams like a noob who just lost his entire inventory, realizing his leg is about to get permanently banned from the server. Mu executes an ancient Egyptian joint lock, a legacy skill so old the devs forgot to patch it out of the game. Dojun screams as his leg gets twisted into a pretzel, instantly spamming the surrender button in chat to avoid a permanent injury debuff. But Mu isn't done farming XP yet. He looks at the tapping out Dojun with a menacing grin and asks, "You lost?" before deciding to test his physics engine. He spins Dojun around like a human Beyblade, generating enough wind to cause a server lag, and then yeets him across the alley. Dojun crashes next to Chungo, both of them realizing they just got absolutely wrecked by a Smurf account. Mu winds up for a fatality, looking absolutely unhinged. Dojun realizes the skill gap is too huge to bridge, so he pulls a desperate pay-to-win move. He grabs all the grinded cash and throws it into the air like a smoke bomb to break Mu's aggro. The distraction works. Mu pauses, confused by the sudden rain of currency. Taking advantage of the lag, Dojun grabs the unconscious Chungo and effectively combat logs, fleeing the scene before Mu can re-engage. Left alone in the alley with Dragon Liam and the cash, Mu realizes the enemies successfully retreated. He picks up the green cap Dojun dropped, a low-tier cosmetic item, and grins maniacally. He admits he failed to leave a permanent mark this time, but vows to spawn camp them in the next encounter. Meanwhile, a battered Dojun limps down the street, dragging his AFK teammate to the nearest safe zone. Chungo is officially bricked, system shut down, drooling on the floor. It's a literal game over screen for her. Cut to Wild Goose High, where a salty delinquent is raging hard. He's tilted because he's drowning in debt and getting farmed by other bullies. He tries to vent his frustration by kicking a random rock, but his luck stat is in the negatives. The rock bounces off the pavement and beans someone right in the boot. Instead of apologizing, Bandage Bro doubles down on his toxicity, barking, "What the hell are you?" He has no idea he just accidentally aggroed Mu, who is standing there in the shadows like a level 99 boss waiting for a challenger. Guak Dugyeon from Cuckoo High pulls up looking smug as hell. He immediately starts roasting Bandage Bro, asking why he looks like he just lost a 1v1 against a tutorial bot. He rubs salt in the wound, mocking him for getting farmed by kids from the next neighborhood. Bandage Bro instantly tilts. His rage bar hits 100%, and he grabs Dugyeon by the collar, ready to throw hands. But Dugyeon doesn't even flinch. He just grins like a toxic player spamming EZ, practically daring him to strike. Bandage Bro, fully triggered, winds up a massive punch, promising to delete Dugyeon's teeth from the server. Bandage Bro got absolutely folded. He's lying in the rubble looking like he tried to solo a raid boss with starter gear. Total critical failure. The next day, Chungo and Dojun are doing the walk of shame. Chungo is salty because Dojun dropped all their loot to escape the previous fight. Dojun is more upset that his inventory is empty and Mu stole his legendary hat cosmetic. Suddenly, Guak Dugyeon blocks their path. Instead of talking, he pops a mysterious blue pill, straight up using consumables before the match starts. His eyes glow and veins pop as he activates a terrifying berserker buff. He grins at them, basically saying their RNG is trash for running into him right now. Dugyeon pops the mystery pill like it's an XP candy, instantly triggering a transformation cutscene. The dark mana buff floods his system, turning his veins purple and cranking his aggression stats to the max. He admits the side effect is turning fully toxic, but he doesn't care. He points at the wrecked Bandage Bro as a warning, declaring himself the new top dog of the server. Before Chungo can even check his power level, Dugyeon activates his speed hacks. He dashes forward with 0 startup frames, closing the gap instantly to snatch her up. Chungo freezes, realizing her reaction time is way too slow for this update. Dojun jumps in to peel for his teammate, landing a solid kick right on Dugyeon's face. He expects a stagger animation, but realizes his damage numbers are showing 0. It feels like kicking a literal pay-to-win wall. Dugyeon's new defense buff makes him practically invincible. Dugyeon doesn't even blink. He grabs Dojun's leg like a joystick and cracks it, instantly disabling Dojun's mobility. As Dojun screams in agony, Chungo rages at the sight of her carry getting griefed. She rushes in, throwing a desperate POW right to Dugyeon's face, hoping to chip away at this broken boss's health bar. Chungo lands a direct hit, but Dugyeon absorbs it like he has infinite HP cheats enabled. He laughs, telling her to stop tickling him, before grabbing her face and slamming her into the wall with 0 effort. The impact is so hard it creates a crater, instantly disconnecting Chungo from the server. Dugyeon looks at the unconscious duo and sighs, disappointed that these so-called high-rankers were just trash mobs in disguise. He walks away, patting himself on the back for his edgy victory speech. However, the buff starts glitching out. Dugyeon meets up with a mysterious hooded guy and immediately starts tweaking. His face flushes and he begins shaking uncontrollably, asking what was in that consumable item because the side effects are driving him absolutely insane. Dugyeon is high on that forbidden pre-workout, feeling absolutely invincible. He tells the hooded guy to pay up since he completed the fetch quest. The hooded guy warns him that the power-up item is bugged. Sure, it boosts your stats, but if you abuse the exploit, your character model will literally explode. It's a permadeath mechanic. No respawns. Meanwhile, Mu arrives at the scene of the crime, scouting for loot. He's holding the green cap like a quest item, trying to trigger the next event, but the enemy has already despawned. He's confused why the Godori boss isn't appearing on his minimap. Cut to the safe zone. Mu consults the class rep. She updates his quest log, pointing him toward a new dungeon. Whistle High School. It looks like the tutorial is over, and Mu is finally tracking down the main server where the Godori clan grinds. Mu is suffering from major boomer energy, forcing the class rep to hand-draw a physical map because he refuses to use modern tech. Meanwhile, Dragon Leem is the true MVP, using a smartphone GPS to navigate them to the quest marker like a pro. They arrive at the enemy base where Mu is rocking the legendary green cap he looted earlier. He spots Dojun, who is limping on crutches with a nasty movement speed debuff. Mu trolls him by flexing the stolen hat, and Dojun realizes he's getting mocked by the very guy who framed him yesterday. Cut to the hospital, the designated save point. Chungo is in bed, wrapped up like a mummy trying to regain her HP. Dojun explains that a psycho ganks them. Mu assumes Dojun means him, but Dojun clarifies it was a different griefer. Just as Dojun starts ranting, Mu senses something sus and abruptly pulls back the curtain to reveal the truth. Bandage Bro suddenly respawns, screaming "Kwak Dugyeon!" like a gamer who just lost a ranked match to a cheater. He tries to rage, but his stamina bar is empty, and he instantly crashes back onto the bed, physically unable to handle the salt. The nurse rushes in, realizing the patient is glitching out because his painkillers have mysteriously been looted from his inventory. Fighting through the lag, Bandage Bro decides to drop some lore. He tells Mu and Dojun that Dugyeon isn't playing fair. He saw him pop a strange consumable item that instantly buffed his stats to game-breaking levels. Bandage Bro admits that Dugyeon used to be a total bot, but after the update, his power scaling is broken. Mu hears this and immediately gets a Battle Maniac buff. He's not scared. He's literally blushing with excitement at the thought of a new PvP challenger. Bandage Bro warns that Dugyeon is ghosting everyone, even the mods. Mu doesn't care. He accepts the bounty hunt quest instantly, vowing to track him down. Later, Mu is stuck doing boring NPC dailies at school, wondering where this hidden boss is camping. In a moment of peak irony, Dugyeon walks right past him on the stairs. They literally cross paths in the lobby, but neither realizes the matchmaking has already started. Dugyeon is getting flamed on the phone by his supplier for leaking info about the hacks. Drugs. He gets bored of the dialogue, hangs up mid-conversation, and decides to speedrun the mission. He peeks through a window and spots his next target, Lee Haejun. Dugyeon pops another blue pill, ignoring the cooldown warnings, and kicks the classroom door open like he's the FBI raiding a streamer's house. Haejun looks back, confused by the sudden aggression. Dugyeon, now fully buffed and looking absolutely toxic, points at him and announces that his free trial of life has officially expired. He grabs a random student's chair, ready to start a server-wide brawl right in the middle of class. Dugyeon goes full griefer mode, picking up a student, chair and all, and literally getting the furniture across the room. The chair smashes through the window, proving that the environment is fully destructible, while the NPCs start spamming the chat with "admin help" and "call the devs." Haejun stands there, confused by this random world event, asking what kind of mob Dugyeon is. Dugyeon doesn't waste time typing a reply. He screams that resistance is futile and rushes in with 0 cooldowns. He lands a heavy body shot that sends Haejun flying back, then instantly follows up with a brutal wall slam into the lockers. Dugyeon is trying to speedrun this boss fight before the admins arrive to ban him. Haejun realizes that camping in the corner is a death sentence, so he toggles PvP mode on. He yells self-defense to avoid a ban and button mashes a desperate combo, landing a clean kick to the gut followed by a hook to the face. It looks like a solid hit, but Dugyeon is literally broken. Instead of taking damage, he just stands there glitching out, laughing like a maniac and claiming the attacks tickle. Haejun tilts and throws one last rage punch, but Dugyeon catches it with zero effort. He mocks Haejun, saying it stings a bit, before crushing his hand like a soda can. Haejun screams as his hardware gets absolutely destroyed. The classroom turns into a total war zone lobby. The NPCs are panic spamming for the mods to come save them. Suddenly, two new characters enter the server, Seyeon and Daljun. Seyeon sees her brother getting griefed and immediately draws aggro. She launches a ranged attack, throwing her pink slipper at Dugyeon's massive back. It deals literally 1 GP damage, but it gets his attention. She rushes in, screaming at him to release the grapple. Dugyeon just grins like a toxic troll, claiming his hand is bugged and can't let go. Seyeon tries to land a punch, but Daljun flashes in and auto-blocks her attack instantly. He stares Dugyeon down, asking why he's farming kills in a different school zone, while Dugyeon looks offended that his combo is interrupted. Haejun decides he's done with the toxicity and signals for the raid to start. He and Daljun coordinate a pincer attack, trying to 2v1 Dugyeon before he can regain his stamina. The scene cuts away as the classroom descends into pure chaos. Out in the hallway, the noise triggers a global alert. A panicked student runs out screaming about the PvP match. The teacher instantly goes aggro, furious that players are breaking the rules, and sprints off to drop the ban hammer. Mu, who was stuck doing a boring fetch quest with the boxes, realizes the main event is happening without him. He instantly cancels his current mission, dropping the loot in mid-air, and dashes after the teacher. He yells, "I want to go too!" Desperate to third-party the fight before it ends. Dragon Liam just holds on tight, checking the map as they rush toward the content. Dragon Liam suddenly triggers his Mana Sense passive, pinging Mu that there's high-level energy nearby. Mu's eyes light up. He knows the boss event is happening right now. Back in the classroom, Haejun and Daljun try to execute a synchronized 2v1 combo to overwhelm Dugyeon. But Dugyeon's stats are way too buff. He catches Daljun's punch with zero effort, looking bored. He instantly counters with a heavy haymaker, proving that their power of friendship strategy stands no chance against his pay-to-win drugs. Daljun analyzes the boss mechanics and realizes Dugyeon is just a stat stick with zero skill. His attack pattern is predictable. While Dugyeon focuses his aggro on the tank, Haejun flanks and lands a critical strike on the back of his knee, inflicting a slow debuff that forces the giant to kneel. The team coordination is on point. Daljun grabs Dugyeon's face to blind him, while Haejun explains that even pay-to-win characters have weak spots. They unleash a synchronized wombo combo, raining punches on him like they're farming a loot box. Dugyeon rages, screaming, "Damn it!" and unleashes a burst of energy to break the stun lock. He tries a desperate charge attack, but his accuracy is trash. The duo dodges perfectly, letting him crash into the lockers like a laggy player running into a wall. Dugyeon starts suffering from withdrawal and grabs the bald guy by the collar, demanding a refill on his hacks. In his desperation, he accidentally doxes the bald guy, shouting loud enough for everyone to hear that he was the quest giver who ordered the hit on Haejun. Haejun connects the dots instantly. This random NPC is actually the hooded dealer in disguise. His rage meter hits 100%, and he rushes in, grabbing Dugyeon's face to shut him up. But the bald guy sees a frame-perfect opportunity. He tosses a pill straight into Dugyeon's open mouth, forcefully reapplying the buff. He drops the scared victim act instantly, commanding his glitched-out minion to finish the kill. Dugyeon pops the pill and instantly breaks the game balance. His stats go through the roof, and he grins like he just bought the ultimate pay-to-win battle pass. Haejun tries to trigger a dialogue event to de-escalate, warning him to back off, but Dugyeon skips the cutscene. Wham! Dugyeon unleashes a server wipe attack, swatting both Haejun and Daljun into the wall like flies. It's a literal one-hit KO. Both tanks are instantly disconnected from the match. Now fully hulked out and glowing with dark mana, Dugyeon locks onto the defenseless Seyeon. He dashes in to spawn kill her, but just before the hit lands, the gym teacher finally logs in. He catches Dugyeon's massive fist with one hand, casually asking if he's been stat padding, and completely halts the rampage with zero effort. The gym teacher decides to manually enforce the terms of service. He activates admin strength, gripping Dugyeon's hand and crushing it until the bones creak. He casually reminds Dugyeon that griefing his students is a bannable offense. Dugyeon looks horrified, realizing his cheat codes don't work on the server admin. Meanwhile, Mu finally loads into the room. Diablo's anti-cheat software triggers instantly. He pings the bald guy in the corner, screaming that he detects the source of the illegal mana. Panic-stricken, the bald guy tries to rush Mu to silence the witness, shouting, "Give me back my loot!" But he rolls a natural 1-inch on agility. He steps directly on the pink slipper Seyeon threw earlier, slips like a cartoon character, and faceplants right into Mu. Mu didn't even have to attack. The enemy literally defeated himself with a physics glitch. The bald guy rolls a natural 1-inch on his dexterity check, tripping over the pink slipper and accidentally headbutting Mu. Embarrassed by his own lag, he screams for his carry, Dugyeon, to aggro Mu immediately. Dugyeon winds up a one-hit KO punch, confident his stats are still boosted. He lands the hit dead center on Mu's chest, but zero damage. Dugyeon freezes, wondering if the server is desyncing. The camera zooms in on Diablo, the true MVP support. He casts Mana Drain, literally sucking the drug buff right out of Dugyeon's system. With his hacks disabled, Dugyeon is nerfed back to a basic mob. Mu drops a sarcastic ouch before unleashing a brutal counter combo, proving that without his pay-to-win consumables, Dugyeon is absolutely trash. And Dugyeon lies on the floor, completely drained of his buffs, looking like a discarded NPC. Mu stands over him, totally disappointed. He complains that fighting this nerfed version of Dugyeon yields 0 XP and isn't even worth the stamina cost. Mu decides to refund the stolen power. He orders Dragon Leem to re-upload the mana back into Dugyeon's system. Dragon Leem hesitates, warning that this file is dangerous, but obeys the command, blasting the blue energy back into the unconscious bully. As the transfer completes, Dragon Leem drops a massive lore bomb. He explains that this isn't just standard MP, it's premium currency that is impossibly rare. Since Earth is a region-locked, no-mana zone, the only way this item exists is if a literal god gifted it directly. Mu freezes, realizing they aren't dealing with a simple hacker, they're dealing with a celestial admin. Mu analyzes the energy signature and realizes it's not his own recycled mana, it's something way more premium. He looks at Diablo, asking, "Is this your IP address?" Dragon Leem acts all shy, blushing and nodding, effectively admitting he's the source of this divine tier loot. Cue the flashback cutscene to 1,000 years ago. We see Mu speedrunning a dungeon in the Divine Realm. He's kiting a massive raid boss, the God of Cyclops. This boss is clearly broken, spamming heavy smash attacks with 4 arms. Mu is dodging for his life, yelling at the boss to chill, while Cyclops enters enraged mode, trying to squash him like a bug. Mu decides to stop playing with his food and executes a massive spin-to-win attack, drilling the Cyclops god into the dirt. The boss instantly de-aggros, canceling his gigantification ult and begging Mu to stop grieving him. Mu looks disappointed, complaining that the raid was too easy, and threatens to come back and farm him again later. Cyclops is traumatized, wishing he could just block this toxic player. Seeing his master bored with the current content, Dragon Leem decides to craft a custom consumable to cheer him up. He grinds a massive rock from earth into powder, but then reveals the secret ingredient. To bind the dough, Dragon Leem literally vomits a massive amount of saliva onto the pile. He kneads the spit-covered dough with magic, revealing that the legendary divine mana pills everyone is fighting over are actually just rocks mixed with dragon spit. Dragon Leem finishes crafting the custom patch, explaining that this dough will buff the enemy's stats if Mu feeds it to them. He emphasizes moderation, showing a tiny pinch as the recommended serving size to make the fight fair. But Mu doesn't do fair. He ignores the safety manual and grabs a massive handful, basically a lethal overdose, and rushes back into the arena. Dragon Leem screams in panic, realizing his master is about to break the game balance completely. Mu force-feeds the Cyclops the entire forbidden pre-workout. The boss instantly overclocks, glowing purple as the massive buff hits his system. Finally facing an opponent with decent stats, Mu grins and engages in a high-speed clash. He lands a server-crashing punch that sends the gigantified Cyclops flying, proving that even with hacks, the boss still can't beat the dev. Dragon Leem explains the lore. Earth has a strict region lock that auto-blocks unauthorized transfers from gods. Basically, the server admins put up a massive firewall, but Mu realizes someone found a backdoor exploit to smuggle this divine mana in. Instead of being mad, he's hyped. Excellent, he grins. Finally, some new DLC content to play with. Dugyeon, running on that borrowed power, tries to stat check Mu. Mu blocks the first hit and admits the pay-to-win buff actually gave Dugyeon some durability. But high stats mean nothing if you have 0 accuracy. Mu movement maxes, dodging Dugyeon's spam attacks effortlessly. Fully tilted because he can't hit a simple target, Dugyeon screams, "You rat!" and unleashes his ultimate, a massive double fist smash. He misses Mu but lands a direct hit on the map itself, shaking the entire school building with massive AoE damage. Mu tries to kite Dugyeon, but the enemy's new divine buff has increased his grab range. Dugyeon snatches Mu out of the air, calls him a rat, and slams him into the wall with enough force to trigger a screen shake effect. Mu sits in the crater, his armor durability reduced to 0%. Dragon Leem panics, checking Mu's HP bar, but Mu is focused on the HUD. He asks for the cooldown timer on Dugyeon's power. Dragon Leem scans the enemy and confirms the God Mode cheat will expire in 5 minutes, suggesting they just camp and stall until Dugyeon gets nerfed automatically. But Mu is a true battle junkie. Instead of being relieved, he looks disappointed. He realizes that once the 5-minute timer hits 0, the limited time event ends, and Dugyeon goes back to being a trash mob. Mu grins maniacally, deciding that waiting is boring. He needs to speedrun this boss fight now while the difficulty is still set to hardcore. Mu rejects the camp and wait strategy. It's too boring for his playstyle. He stands up with glowing eyes, setting a hard speedrun timer, 5 minutes until server shutdown. Meanwhile, a quick cutaway shows the hooded guy in his crafting station, literally hammering away at the divine mana rock like he's mining Bitcoin, preparing more cheat codes for the bad guys. Back in the fight, Mu realizes his student uniform skin offers 0 defense. He rips his shirt off, classic anime power-up logic, and analyzes the meta. He knows if he trades blows with his base stats, his durability will break. So he decides to toggle his own hacks, flexing his muscles to manually match Doogyon's strength stat for a fair 1v1. Mu drops a quick lore dump via flashback. In his previous life, he min-maxed his strength stats so hard that his muscles became bloatware, too big and clunky for high-speed combat. To fix this optimization issue, he developed a technique to compress muscle density, stacking nearly 150,000 layers of power into a compact frame. Basically, he turned himself into a zip file of pure destruction. Back in the present, Mu activates Compression Level 1. Dragon Liam screams a warning as Doogyeon throws a punch with a massive splash damage radius. But Mu abuses the physics engine. He literally sucks in his chest and compresses his torso mid-animation, manipulating his own hitbox to dodge the attack by a single pixel. Having made Doogyeon miss, Mu instantly shifts the data to his arm, activating Compression Level 2. His arm swells up with condensed power, ready to deliver a counterattack that's going to hurt way more than a banhammer. Doogyeon launches a heavy attack, but Mu dodges the first swing with a clean animation cancel. However, Doogyeon's follow-up combo is fast. He catches Mu off guard and lands a solid hit, knocking him back into the wall. Mu takes chip damage and grunts, realizing he needs to buff his stats again. He activates Compression 3 stacks, condensing even more muscle mass into his arm until it glows red with stored kinetic energy. Doogyeon tries to interrupt the cast by rushing in for a grab, but Mu dashes under his guard. In a frame-perfect counter, Mu meets Doogyeon's massive fist with his own. The clash creates a shockwave that blows out all the windows in the hallway. It's a pure stat check Mu's compressed power versus Doogyeon's divine hacks, and the collision shakes the entire server. Doogyeon enters a state of pure denial, refusing to believe a player with a base skin is matching his pay-to-win build. He screams, "Don't be ridiculous!" and starts furiously button mashing, spamming every attack in his arsenal to overwhelm Mu. Mu matches his attack speed frame for frame, and the two engage in a rapid-fire clash that destroys the classroom props. Finally, they commit to a devastating cross-counter, punching each other's fists head-on. Doogyeon expects his massive size to win the trade, but his hand literally cracks upon impact. Mu stands tall and explains the physics engine exploit. Force concentrated on a smaller surface area hits harder. Basically, Mu's condensed fist acted like an armor-piercing round, proving that density size in the current meta. Mu realizes his God Mode trial expires in 5 minutes, so he decides it's finally time to stop sandbagging. He hits the monstrous Doogyeon with an absolutely OP punch, sending him flying through the school wall like a glitchy NPC. Doogyeon hits the pavement several stories down, leaving the local guards totally malting while the physics engine basically breaks. Back in the shattered classroom, Mu stands there with massive main character energy while his trash-tier classmates and teacher are completely shaken by his pay-to-win strength. The bald scrub flees the scene, yelling that Doogyeon was just a trash-tier mob and promising to bring a high-level boss next time. Mu finally hits his limit and crashes, looking like his trial period just expired and he got nerfed by the server. Yang rushes over, totally panicked about his master, but Mu isn't actually down for the count. Hearing there are stronger enemies gives him instant Black Air Force energy, and he starts laughing like a true battle maniac. Instead of taking a nap, he tells the little dragon to cough up the goods, immediately grinding some blue-tier loot to replenish his mana for the next round. The bald scrub retreats to his uncle, desperately begging for more pay-to-win blue buffs to save his reputation. Uncle is just chilling in his tropical shirt until he realizes his nephew already burned through the entire stash. The vibe immediately turns toxic when the bald guy admits they fed Doogyeon 2 legendary tier items and still got absolutely no dift. Realizing their expensive buffs were useless against Mu's plot armor, the uncle slams the table in pure disbelief, wondering how such a high-cost strategy resulted in a total skill issue. Mu pulls up to the hideout with straight final boss energy, turning the uncle's security team into trash-tier mobs in seconds. The uncle is absolutely malting, realizing his base just got breached by a shirtless menace with infinite plot armor. Instead of waiting for a nerf, Mu has officially entered his Black Air Force era. He's done with the weak NPCs and is actively hunting for the high-tier raid boss the bald scrub mentioned. He's ready to farm some more XP and catch another easy W. The bald scrub flees the scene like a total NPC, promising to bring a high-level boss next time because the last one was apparently just a trash-tier mob. Instead of being worried, Mu hears stronger opponent and goes full Black Air Force mode, his battle maniac grin reaching levels that shouldn't even be possible. He forces Yang to cough up a legendary tier recovery sphere, instantly getting a full HP/MP restore plus a massive body reinforcement buff. Now back to being completely OP, Mu heads out to farm the next group of enemies. His shocked classmates, realizing he's the ultimate main character, decide to stop being background characters and follow him to nip the threat in the bud. Mu starts the day by using his classmates as human fidget spinners, laughing like a total battle maniac before yeeting them aside. He pulls up to the enemy hideout looking like a hobo-tier protagonist, where a suit-and-tie NPC tries to gatekeep him for looking like a beggar. Big mistake. The guard tries to put hands on him and dismisses his legendary pet Yang. So Mu sends him on a one-way trip through the glass door with an OP punch. He's officially breached the lobby, and the ragdoll physics on that guard are looking beautiful. Mu solos the entire security team like it's a tutorial level, entering the room with peak Black Air Force energy. The bald student is absolutely malting, frantically explaining to his uncle that this crazy main character clapped their buffed-up monster despite their pay-to-win strategy. Mu doesn't care about the drama. He's just hunting for the next high-tier boss fight. Seeing the massive potential, the uncle stops acting like a background NPC and offers a high-stakes gamble. He promises to introduce Mu to a real challenge, but with a major catch. If Mu takes the L, he has to join the uncle's squad as a permanent subordinate. Mu accepts the high-stakes gamble without hesitation, but the bald NPC tries to get greedy by betting the legendary dragon Yong as well. Yong is absolutely heated, but Mu is unbothered. His main character confidence is at an all-time high because he simply doesn't catch L's. They head to an underground arena where the uncle reveals his pay-to-win strategy, using a series of pill buffs to drain Mu's stamina before finishing him off. A massive, purple-veined raid boss enters the cage already one pill deep into a power-up and looking to grief our boy. The mob talks big about half-killing Mu, but Mu's reaction time is cracked. He casually catches a full power punch and activates a grip strength enhancement ready to end this man's whole career. Mu starts the round by absolutely mangling the first mob's arm, proving that trash-tier buffs are useless against a cracked protagonist. The uncle is officially malignant, realizing his pay-to-win scheme is failing miserably against Mu's pure black Air Force energy. Unfazed, the uncle sends in a second victim loaded with a legendary tier pill buff. Mu doesn't even break a sweat. He simply toggles his leg strength enhancement and delivers a stomp so OP it leaves the guy in a literal crater. With another opponent turned into a ragdoll, Mu looks completely bored, making it clear that no amount of buffs can fix this massive skill issue. Mu is officially tilting, flaming the uncle for promising a challenge but delivering nothing but trash-tier fodder. He's tired of the tutorial phase and is demanding a real endgame boss. Realizing he's about to catch a massive L, the uncle plays his final card. A new challenger enters the server and pops 2 legendary tier pills at once, triggering a massive buff that turns him into a purple muscle max beast. It's the ultimate pay-to-win transformation, and the uncle is betting everything on this high-level raid boss finally having enough DPS to crack Mu's plot armor. The 2-pill raid boss enters the cage, claiming he's the server admin of this underground arena. He attempts a high DPS kick that would have deleted any normal NPC, but Mu's evasion stats are absolutely cracked. The uncle goes from malting to a smug grin, convinced his pay-to-win gotcha pills are finally delivering the goods. Just as Mu dodges the massive AoE attack, the purple monster glitches through the arena and teleports directly behind him, trying to end his plot armor once and for all. The 2-pill raid boss tries to sneak Mu from behind, but our boy's iframes are too strong. However, the sheer friction of the move absolutely nerfs Mu's sneakers, leaving his footwear in literal pieces. Mu quickly realizes this purple monster is a lower body build specialist, so he decides it's time to switch the meta. He ditches his ruined gear and enters quadrupedal mode, activating the Tiger Claw Fist. Now moving like a glitch speedrunner, Mu is ready to show this pay-to-win mob that his main character energy is on a completely different level. The purple raid boss is getting hard tilted because he can't land a single stomp on Mu, who's abusing his iframes like a pro. After getting called a cockroach, Mu decides to stop the trolling and drops a massive ultimate, Behemoth Fist. He catches the monster's arm mid-swing, calling his pay-to-win attacks bug tier before unleashing a high-speed combo. Even with a 2-pill buff, the opponent is getting absolutely no diffed by Mu's raw main character energy. It's a total skill issue as the arena turns into a one-sided beatdown. Mu realizes his current DPS is basically just tickling the raid boss, as his fast-paced attacks aren't cutting through that double pill buff. He starts overthinking his meta strategy like he's in a tactical RPG, contemplating whether to switch to a grappler built with joint locks or just aim for vital point crits. While Mu is busy having a mental flashback about getting kicked by a potential waifu, the purple monster decides to stop sandbagging. The mob attempts a massive high-impact knee kick to show Mu what a real pay-to-win attack looks like, hoping to finally crack his plot armor and end the match. Mu takes a massive purple knee straight to the dome, but since he's got infinite plot armor, his HP bar barely even flinches. Instead of catching the L, he just smiles and decides to pivot his meta strategy toward a high-precision vital point crit. The buffed-up mob is still trash-talking, calling Mu a wriggling bug, but Mu is busy doing mental math to maximize his damage output. He realizes that focusing all his power into a tiny hitbox is the ultimate way to bypass the enemy's tank build. Concentrating his strength into a single point, he prepares to delete the monster's defense with a strike that's about to be absolutely broken. Mu connects with that precision vital point strike, and the purple raid boss immediately starts glitching from the pain. Seeing a massive opening, Mu goes full JoJo mode, unleashing a high-speed barrage that turns the opponent's pay-to-win body into a literal punching bag. The uncle is absolutely malting in the stands, unable to compute how his legendary tier buffs are getting no diffed by an unarmed student. While Yang is out here living his best life cheering for his master, the uncle realizes Mu is way too broken and decides they can't let this OP specimen escape the server. Meanwhile, the purple monster's legs are shaking like a leaf, proving he's one hit away from a total system crash. Mu has the purple raid boss on the ropes, but the uncle is a total greedy NPC who isn't ready to take the L. Thinking only about his investment, he tosses a third pay-to-win pill into the ring to trigger a desperate triple threat buff. The defeated mob is literally crying in trash-tier despair, but he swallows the pill anyway for one last gotcha-style power-up. The server is about to crash as he undergoes a hideous, even more OP transformation, turning into a complete monster just to protect the uncle's daddy's money payout. The purple raid boss goes full pay to win, popping a third legendary pill to trigger a massive triple buff transformation. The uncle is acting like a toxic fanboy, convinced this high-cost gacha strategy will finally wreck Mu's plot armor. Mu realizes his standard DPS won't pierce a tank built this beefy, so he decides to min-max his power. He repeatedly activates a compress skill, focusing his entire strength into a single pinpoint hitbox. With cracked speed, he lunges forward and delivers a concentrated strike directly to the monster's chest, proving that even a max-level whale can't handle main character energy. Mu's pinpoint strike basically does 0 damage because the raid boss has a defense stat that is absolutely cracked. Realizing the triple pill buff turned his opponent into a literal chunk of metal, Mu tries to kite him to rethink his meta strategy. But the monster isn't just a tank. He launches an insane AoE ground slam that shatters the entire arena. Before Mu can recover his positioning, the monster catches his leg and starts griefing him, slamming him into the pavement like a trash-tier mob. For the first time, Mu is catching a major L, with his HP bar taking a massive hit as he gets ragdolled across the floor. Yang rushes in to save his master with a mana drain hack, but Mu tells him to stand down because he's a total sweat who wants the solo kill. Realizing the monster's tank build has way too much physical defense to pierce, Mu decides to ignore the armor and attack the hardware directly. He delivers a devastating palm strike that sends a shockwave straight through the skull, rattling the enemy's brain like a glitched loading screen. The uncle is absolutely malting in the stands as he watches his pay-to-win investment get its hard drive formatted by Mu's relentless Black Air Force energy. Mu is officially in his Battle Maniac era, thanking the uncle for the fight while laughing like a total sweat. The uncle is completely shook, unable to comprehend why this shirtless menace is actually enjoying getting griefed by a triple pill monster. The fight gets so OP that the entire arena starts falling apart. The uncle enters a total mental breakdown because he spent his whole life's gold on this building, only for Mu to turn it into a ragdoll physics playground. Even after being slammed into a crater, Mu just stares back with peak Black Air Force energy. The uncle starts realizing he didn't just hire a fighter. He accidentally invited a god-tier glitch that doesn't even have a hitbox. Sitting in a crater, Mu realizes that overthinking his meta is way too exhausting. He decides to stop trying to be a big-brain tactician and switches to instinct mode, which is basically his version of a god mode hack. With peak Black Air Force energy and a terrifying grin, he stands up and jumps back into the fray. The 3-pill raid boss tries to end his run with another heavy jump attack, but Mu's iframes are perfectly timed. He delivers a counter-strike so cracked it sends the purple monster flying into the arena fence like a broken NPC, proving that plot armor is unbeatable when you just follow your gut. Mu is staggering like his ping is at 999 ms, looking absolutely cooked from the last exchange. The triple pill whale thinks he's just trying to act edgy and dares him to keep fighting. They trade a massive, arena-shaking blow that looks like a total server wipe, leaving both of them battered. The monster thinks he finally nerfed Mu's right arm for good, mocking him for having nothing left. But Mu is still running on pure main character energy. Despite his arm looking like trash-tier loot, Mu suddenly lunges forward and grabs the monster's head with a terrifying grip. The pay-to-win mob is absolutely shook, realizing Mu's plot armor is still active and he's about to deliver a game-ending finisher. Mu lands a punch so OP it practically breaks the server, but his own arm is now looking like trash-tier assets. The purple monster realizes his pay-to-win buff is finally expiring, so he enters total panic mode. Desperate to avoid an L, the monster launches a high-risk all-in dive from the ceiling, hoping to crush Mu before the medicine nerf fully kicks in. Mu just stands his ground with peak main character energy, tracking the raid boss like he's got aimbot active, ready to frame trap him into oblivion. The purple whale attempts a final all-in dive, but Mu's timing is absolutely cracked. He counters with an OP leg stomp that grinds the raid boss into the dirt, turning him into a literal ragdoll. It's a total skill issue for the pay-to-win mob, as Mu follows up with a barrage that deletes whatever was left of his HP bar. Standing over the defeated enemy with his own limbs looking like glitched assets, Mu starts laughing like a total sweat. The uncle is left malting in the stands, realizing his entire investment just got deleted by this god-tier menace. The uncle is officially malignant as he calculates the repair costs for his trashed arena, realizing his pay-to-win scheme backfired and turned his profit margins into trash-tier rubble. While the boss has a total financial system crash, Yang finds Mu buried under the debris but can't lift the OP weight alone. Desperate for a buff, the legendary pet stops being a cute mascot and goes full aggro on the uncle, biting his face and demanding the high-level loot to save his master. The uncle gets absolutely no diffed by a tiny lizard, proving that even a whale isn't safe when the protagonist's pet decides to skip the tutorial and choose violence. While Yang is still busy biting the uncle for that sweet pill loot, Mu decides he's done being buried under the rubble. He stands up and lifts the entire massive arena frame like it's a trash-tier prop, proving his physical stats are completely broken. His muscles start making a high-pitched screeching sound, which Yang explains happens when Mu pushes his hardware way past the level cap. With a terrifying grin, Mu slams the structure down, further deleting what was left of the uncle's investment. The stadium is now officially a low-res wasteland, leaving Uncle malting as he watches his pay-to-win dreams get crushed into the dirt. Yang warns that the building is about to hit a 404 collapse, but Mu realizes this is actually a big brain win condition. If the arena is gone, he technically secures the W. To finish the job, Mu drops a final OP ground slam that completely deletes the structure. The bald NPC flees the scene in terror as the building turns into a pile of trash-tier rubble. Mu emerges from the ruins looking like a total menace, laughing maniacally because the fight was actually high tier. It's a massive main character flex. Lobby cleared, building demolished, and 0 survivors for his W streak. The uncle is lying in the ruins, having a total mental breakdown over his trash-tier life choices. He realizes his pay-to-win building is gone because he wasted all his gold on his useless NPC nephew. While Yang complains about the lack of recovery loot due to Lucifer's interference, Mu is just chilling in the debris, waiting for his HP to slowly regen. Suddenly, the uncle triggers a hidden gacha mechanic, popping more dough to transform into a maxed-out purple raid boss. Yang tries to tell Mu to bail, but Mu is a total sweat with peak Black Air Force energy, refusing to run from the smoke. However, just as he prepares for a main character glow-up, his hardware hits a blue screen of death. He collapses on the spot, leaving him wide open as the uncle goes for a final building-sized griefing strike. Mu is currently getting no diff, and his HP bar is flashing red. Yang thinks it's game over, but Mu still has that lingering main character energy. Realizing his hardware is almost completely fried, he notices his left leg is the only part of his build still functioning. He ignores the massive nerfs to his body and prepares one final desperate all-in move. Staggering to his feet, Mu pops a last-second muscle reinforcement buff and launches a frame-perfect strike. He catches the purple raid boss off guard, delivering a brutal kick straight to the throat that completely bypasses the uncle's pay-to-win defense. The critical hit is so OP that the uncle's transformation glitches out, sending him face-planting into the trash-tier rubble. Mu officially secures the W. Yang finally snags the legendary loot and tries to use it as a healing buff for Mu, but then the server starts glitching. He realizes the Earth's atmosphere is suddenly flooded with mana, which is a total system error for this world. Before he can finish the regen process, the sky literally splits open like a broken UI, revealing a massive rift. A high-tier isekai boss starts descending from the portal, bringing some serious final boss energy to the map. It looks like the tutorial is officially over, and the world is about to face a total server crash. This horned edgelord is out here trying to DPS a literal planet, but the orb has such OP defense that it's not taking a single scratch. Frustrated that his best moves are getting no diffed, he decides to switch his meta strategy entirely. The little goddess is just watching from the sidelines, totally confused, until he pulls the most broken move in the history of the server. Realizing the planet is the ultimate tank build, he picks the whole thing up to use as a projectile. The girl is absolutely shook as he prepares the Planet Elmer throw, proving this crazy bastard has 0 chill and is playing with literal god mode cheats enabled. The white-haired demon tries to bypass Earth's hexagonal barrier by getting a literal planet at it, convinced his OP strength will finally crack the server's defense. He's screaming for the shield to break, but the physics engine pulls a total reverse card. Instead of a server wipe, Planet Elmer doesn't shatter. It starts to merge with the barrier like a glitchy, forced, unauthorized update. The little goddess is left completely shaken as the high-tier projectile integrates into the atmosphere. What was supposed to be a game-over strike has turned into a permanent server merge, leaving even the demon wondering if he just accidentally broke the world's meta. The sky officially glitches as a massive purple isekai boss spawns into the city, acting like he's the owner of the server. The local NPCs are absolutely malignant, frantically recording the monster on their phones while their fight-or-flight response hits 999 MS ping. The monster tries to gatekeep the neighborhood, threatening a tiny creature standing in his way, but the vibe immediately shifts when it turns out he's in some weird play of nothingness chibi mode. Meanwhile, back in the rubble, Mu's hardware finally reboots. He realizes the world just got a massive mana buff, and for the first time, his high-level senses are actually picking up the server's new energy. Yang is out here spamming healing magic as Mu's HP bar slowly reloads. Suddenly, a new isekai try-hard in full-plate armor spawns from the rift, looking to catch an easy W on an incapacitated player. This knight pulls his blade to grief the fallen Earthlord, but Yang isn't letting anyone touch his master. The little mascot triggers a massive stat buff, evolving from a trash-tier chibi into a literal max-level dragon build. He blocks the path with peak main character energy, protecting Mu's plot armor like a total final boss. The armored NPC is officially maligned as his easy spawn kill mission just turned into a high-level nightmare. The armored tryhard tries to spawn kill a downed Mu, but Yang blocks the blade with his massive dragon build. Realizing he can't ignore the dragon, the knight decides to clear this mini-boss first. However, Yang is tired of being treated like a trash-tier mascot and finally decides to lock in. Recalling all the times he was treated like a weak NPC, Yang decides to reveal his true meta. He summons several OP magic circles and unleashes a game-breaking ultimate that absolutely deletes the knight. The armored scrub gets no diffed and turned into a ragdoll in the rubble. Mu finally reboots to find the lobby cleared, left wondering how his pet became so cracked. The armored tryhard finally hits the floor, but it turns out he was just a trash-tier vessel for the bald student soul. The kid is absolutely malignant, crying about his lost body, while Mu looks on, completely unbothered by the NPC drama. Meanwhile, up in the stratosphere, the server is hitting a total system error. The white-haired demon's broken planet throw didn't cause a game over. Instead, planet Elmer has started a permanent server merge with Earth. As the two worlds integrate, the local physics engine is basically on life support, leaving the entire player base shaken by the sudden unauthorized update to the map. Earth basically got hit with an unauthorized isekai expansion pack. Cracks opened up in the server, and high-level monsters started spawning everywhere. Humanity's military was full of level 1 NPCs with 0 DPS, getting absolutely no diff while their tanks were treated like trash-tier toys. Just as the server was about to hit a game over, 2 OP carry players appeared, a legendary dragon and a mysterious adventurer. Thanks to their main character energy, the first crisis was cleared. Soon, the mana overflow gave regular humans a massive buff, allowing them to awaken special powers. To keep the lobby from falling into chaos, a specialized academy was built to train these hunters so they could actually fight back instead of just being fodder. Liho's origin story is basically the worst isekai gacha pull in history. He started as a standard NPC nerd who dreamed of having main character energy, so a god granted his wish and teleported him to a fantasy world. But instead of spawning with a legendary build and plot armor, he got hit with a massive nerf. He woke up possessing a trash-tier grade Z body that was old, bald, and had 0 talent. He spent his days grinding bottom-barrel quests and getting roasted by high-level adventurers and waifus. He escaped one miserable life only to end up in a different skill-issue nightmare, cursing the RNG gods every time he saw his reflection. Liho, tired of his trash-tier life as a bald, 0-talent adventurer in a fantasy world, spots a purple rift. He decides to risk it all and dives in, hoping for a buff or at least a way out of his miserable isekai nightmare. Somehow, he spawns back on Earth, still stuck in the old man's body but ready to reclaim his original life. He pulls up on Mu, demanding his body back, but he quickly realizes he's got a massive skill issue. Mu just stands there with main character energy while Liho catches a total L. Now, he's left face-planting in the dirt, crying like a total NPC for the life he lost while the rest of the server moves on to the literal planet-merging chaos. Mu denies the body swap request, leaving Liho stuck in his trash-tier bald adventurer build. Taking a massive L, Liho decides to embrace the isekai grind on Earth, becoming a hunter just to farm enough gold for plastic surgery. He starts clearing mobs and getting hyped by NPCs, dreaming of a power buff once again. Meanwhile, the Earth server gets a massive unauthorized mana update. While Yang heals Mu in the ruins, they realize this broken phenomenon is Lucifer's doing. Sensing the energy from planet Elmer flooding the map, Mu drops a menacing grin, realizing the endgame has finally arrived. Mu and Yang decide to stop idling and start a massive monster clearing raid. They're out here no-diffing trash-tier goblins like it's a tutorial level. The local news meta catches them in 4K, and suddenly the whole server is treating them like top-tier idols. The government is so desperate for a carry that they beg the big dragon to train the new players. Mu negotiates a high-stakes deal, and now Yang is officially the principal of the Hunter Academy. Plot twist. The Hunters are actually just reskinned mages from the Elmer world, and the grind is only just beginning. The Hunter Academy officially opens its doors, and it's time for the first batch of students, to start their grind. Principal Yang rolls up with a literal parade of chained-up monsters, ready to run a massive DPS check on the entire class. He introduces the Elmer Standard Mage rank system, where your clout depends entirely on which monsters you can no-diff. Rank 5 is the trash-tier baseline for people who can actually hurt a goblin, while Rank 4 is for those capable of handling an orc. The Academy is officially in session, and the meta for Earth has been permanently set to level up or get deleted. Yang continues the tutorial, revealing the big boy tiers. Rank 3 clears Griffins, Rank 2 handles Minotaurs, and Rank 1 is for the legendary Wyvern Slayers. The class starts their DPS check, showing off various exclusive skills. One student pops an explosion point for a solid Rank 3, while a lightning mage hits Rank 2 with a high-voltage discharge. But the server MVP finally pulls up, 19-year-old Kang Chiol. He launches an OP Absolute Zero attack, instant freezing the Rank 1 Wyvern and making the whole feat look like a total no-diff. This absolute unit clearly has endgame carry energy, leaving the rest of the class looking like trash-tier NPCs. The lobby is absolutely losing it after Kang Chiol secures a Rank 1 spot with his OP Ice build. The NPCs think he's the only high-level player until Lee Hae-jun spawns in to crash the party. He drops his Hellfire Ultimate, proving his fire stats are just as cracked and snagging another Rank 1 title. Yang is totally malting over the sudden power creep in his classroom, while Mu just watches the trash-tier clout chasing with pure main character energy, looking bored out of his mind and ready to log off. Mu spends 30 minutes sandbagging, punching a low-level mob like he's stuck in a laggy tutorial. Yang officially ranks him as Rank 5, and some trash-tier student named Cheoljin starts laughing, thinking Mu is just a bottom-barrel scrub. Big mistake. Yang doesn't tolerate disrespect toward his master. He instantly toggles his final boss form and breathes dragon fire right in the bully's face, asking him why he's talking big. Turns out, the bully is just a mid-tier Rank 3 who literally pees his pants the moment he realizes he's outmatched. With the lobby sufficiently humbled, Yang teleports the terrified scrub into the arena to begin some real combat training. Cheoljin enters the arena against a spawned orc, acting like he's got main character energy just because he's Rank 3. He treats the monster like a trash-tier mob and rushes in with his exclusive skill, Explosive Drill, thinking he's about to catch an easy W. However, the orc pulls an unofficial nerf by releasing a stench so foul it breaks Choljin's focus. In a major skill issue moment, the orc delivers a massive counter hit, sending the self-proclaimed pro flying across the stage like a glitchy NPC. As the class panics about a potential game over, the orc grabs Choljin's face for a final flex, proving that mocking a rank 5 inches master was the ultimate no-diff mistake. Now, Choljin is catching the ultimate L as the orc prepares to send him to the Shadow Realm. Instead of a rescue, Yong decides to buff the monster into a rage state, causing the student to literally pee himself in terror. It's a total trash-tier performance that leaves the class wondering if they just witnessed a game over. Despite his rank 5 inches tag, Mu is out here begging for a turn like he's at a gacha pull. The NPCs in the lobby are convinced he's about to get deleted, but Yong tells them to pipe down and watch a pro at work. Mu enters the arena with peak Black Air Force energy, looking at the enraged orc like it's a nostalgic XP farm. He's reminiscing about the time he clapped the Orc King back in Elmer, and it's clear this low-rank player is about to break the server's power scaling. Mu is out here reminiscing about his Isekai glory days when he absolutely clapped the Orc King's cheeks. Back in the arena, he's dodging the current orc's mid-tier attacks like it's a laggy tutorial bot. Deciding to stop trolling, he activates Body Enhancement to buff his stats, unleashing a flurry of punches that leaves the NPC students malting in the stands. Even the rank 1 ice carry is shook by Mu's movement, but notes that his DPS is still trash tier since the orc's tank build isn't even flinching. Yong is just dropping truth bombs that rank is a total scam, and the real-world meta is all about skill. Mu realizes his current build is lacking the lethal juice to pierce that thick hide. Looks like it's time for a serious hardware upgrade. Mu decides to turn the arena into a 12-hour grind session because his current DPS is too low to pierce the orc's tank build. He sticks to a chip damage meta, punching the mob relentlessly from sundown until the morning sun hits the academy. While Yong is basically AFK meditating, napping through the noise, the NPC students are left completely disturbed by the endless rhythmic thuds echoing through the building. By sunrise, Mu finally deletes the orc's HP bar, leaving it face down in a bloody crater. Even though he's salty that he couldn't land a crit through the monster's skin, he still stands there with peak main character energy. It was a long night for a simple W, but for Mu, the grind is just getting started. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and watch the next part to see what happens next.